It's been 2 long months in this offseason for the KBueno Racing Network Truck Series, but we are back in the world's center of racing where it all begins for the start of a brand new campaign. Thank you for joining us on this Monday night where, alongside Nate Polite, I'm Francisco Bacallao, getting ready to bring you action for dual racing here tonight from this famous speedway. And Nate, it's been a good while since we've been in the booth here together, going back to the Homestead Miami Speedway back in May. But we're here, we're ready in the end of this summer months, and we're going to have trucks back out on the racetrack vying for a spot to race in our big main event next week.
This on Big Francisco. We thought we saw a jump in the population of this series from season 1 to season 2, and now from season 2 to season 3, everybody wants to race in the KBueno Racing Network Truck Series. We're going to have a full house, not just at Daytona, but I'm thinking a lot of the way through this season.
Yeah, we saw a lot of growth in this series over season two, Nate, from the start to the finish, and there's been a lot of changes. New drivers, drivers changing numbers, drivers changing teams. A lot of changes here on the KBueno Racing Network as a whole. But one thing that won't change is you and I up here in the booth calling some great action, and tonight is going to be no different. We mentioned we have dual racing. We have nearly 80 drivers vying for spots into a 40 truck field next week, Nate. Not everybody's going to get a chance at the pie, but kind of give us what the rundown is going to be for our qualifying method here tonight.
Well, first and foremost, 25 guys do not have to worry, probably down to 24 based off of some attendance issues. Locked in on points from last season, no matter what, unless they no call, no show. After that, the top 6 open drivers in each of the dual is set by qualifying time up through 40 trucks. And also, the dual winners will start on the front row.
Yeah, so essentially our finishing order will be the entire row for each dual number. So it's going to be important to finish well in your duel. It'll get you a really good starting spot. And that dual one, the coveted pole position, is going to be ever so crucial. But just as crucial, Nate, as you mentioned, the rest of the open trucks are going to be determined off of qualifying. So not only is it important to set a good enough lap time, but you don't know if you're going to have to fall back on that lap time to get you into the show. So obviously, while qualifying is normally very or not that important here on super speedways, getting a lap out there is going to be pretty important because you never know, it could be the difference by 1/1000th of a second of whether you make it or not to next week.
And it's a good way to kind of be easy because as long as you're at the very top of this field in qualifying time, you can kind of not sweat in the duels. Even if you don't finish it, you know that you're going to be up in probably the top 4 or 5. You're going to be good to make it in. You're not going to have to worry. You can enjoy the race as much as you want. You don't got to worry about a crash taking you out. Everyone else is going to be really, really sweating. But I'm feeling nice if I'm in the top 5 of the open trucks.
And of course, all that pressure is for Daytona, which is the big race everyone always wants to be a part of. But there's going to be a lot more action following the Daytona International Speedway next week. Here's our schedule. Remember, we didn't have this graphic ready for you in the finale last time around, but as the offseason got underway, we got to work, and here's the schedule that we'll have for you this time around. And Nate, when you take a look at this schedule, you see the tracks that we start off with. We go back to Las Vegas, which you remember didn't have a live broadcast when we went there in season one. We get to return there later in August. A special driver vote road course race. We'll have that announcement for next week. The votes are in. We know which racetrack we're going to be on, but we'll bring that to you live and unveil it on the show next week at Daytona. So stay tuned for that to see which road course race is the first one we get to tackle. Keyword on first. New Hampshire gets its first view into this series as we go on before the Charlotte patriotic race that we have towards the September 11th weekend. We go back dirt racing on Volusia Speedway. That's going to be pretty fun to watch. We also go to the big Indianapolis Oval after going to the short track. Rockingham is back on the schedule. We get to go to the Gateway Worldwide Technology Raceway and the Darlington ending the regular season once again, which is becoming a staple in this series. And how about that chase, Nate? We've got mile and a halves all over it, but two very important racetracks that aren't mile and a halves, that road course of Canadian Tire and the Iowa Speedway, the penultimate race of the calendar.
Well, I want to talk about the one chase race you didn't mention, Echo Park Speedway, not Atlanta Motor Speedway, Echo Park Speedway, the new version, the Super Speedway version. 3 Super Speedway races on the regular schedule this year, most we've seen ever. And these duels are going to kind of set the tone for who is going to be up front in these races as well.
And Echo Park very much different to a track like Daytona or Talladega. The way the runs are generated, the way you have to run that racetrack, it definitely is a little bit more driver friendly in that aspect. It's become very much liked as the track has aged, as more races have been run on it. I think a lot of drivers will still take the old Atlanta over it, but that's not to say that the new Atlanta has failed. And I think it'll be exciting to get to watch some truck racing when we get there in November. But Nate, let's quickly gloss over this racetrack, which rightfully so doesn't need much of an introduction. This track opened all the way back in 1959 when Bill France wanted a big super speedway asphalt in the home of NASCAR, where it was discovered just over 10 years prior. And nobody knew who won the first Daytona 500 that was ran in 1959. It took 3 days to decide Lee Petty as the winner, but ever since then, it has been one of the most coveted trophies in all of NASCAR and expanding beyond the stock car realm with the 24 hours of Daytona MotoGP racing here as well, and even Supercross in that infield, which you can actually see on this shot. The layout just kind of there. But Nate, what is so important and so prestigious about this racetrack?
Well, it's the cathedral. This is the place that you want to come to as a guy who races stock cars. And this is like going to the big house in college football, or like going to Lambeau or the Rose Bowl. It's like going to one of those cathedrals, Fenway Park, Wrigley Field. This is what Daytona is. There is no place more important to stock car racing than Daytona International Speedway. It doesn't matter if it's a dual race, if it's the 500, if it's an I race like we have here tonight. It's important to win here, and it just means more.
It's just very much different. You feel the aura when you're there watching these cars go by on the racetrack. When you're standing on the property, you just know the amount of histories that's been there. And you mentioned Wrigley. I had the pleasure of hanging out there on Fourth of July weekend, and yeah, the Cubs got a little bit of a butt whipping up towards them, but standing in that field, seeing the history, knowing how long it's been there, it really gives off the same kind of energy. And that's exactly what these drivers are going to be vying for. Even if you win, as they say, just a dual race here tonight, Nate, it means a lot. And these drivers know that the track position for next week's race could very well be a very important factor in their possible chance at winning this race. Looks like qualifying has just wrapped up, so we'll go trackside and bring to you the starting lineup here for tonight's action. We're on the pole. Believe it or not, it is the 71 of Dominic Barbagallo. He gets sets an incredible lap time to get onto the front row of this field, so he's going to have a really good chance of that lap time, of heading that track position, of trying to make tonight's show. And alongside him is the number 30 of Justin Johnson. He also sets a really good lap time, just a few hundredths of a second separating those two from the top positions. Going back to the second row of the grid, we have the number 6 of Kaloa Hankins. All three of these drivers, for that matter, Nate, are making their series debut. You have to go all the way back to fourth place. Duncan Fall, as the first driver that we've seen race in this series prior, in the fourth spot. The art of locking in after finishing second in the championship gets a great qualifying spot here in fourth. Fifth goes to the number '07 Christian Pacheco, a name we haven't seen on the KBueno Racing Network in years, makes his return here. He rolls off fifth, and Randy Showers in the 22 will roll off from the sixth spot. Timothy Cook Jr. starts from seventh place with Kenneth Bueno. He's one of those drivers locked in as well. He'll be rolling off from the eighth spot. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer finishing top five in points once again with a ninth spot qualifying effort, with Nicholas Bauman rounding out our top 10.
After that, Keelan Belsha alongside Juan Escamilla in row 6, row 7, right behind those two. Going to be Jared Wilson alongside Aaron Barnacle. Plenty of open guys finding their way up toward the front of this field. Eli O'Quinn, J.J. Hill in row 8. Row 9, Jaden Porter. He changed his number to the 77. He's alongside Luis Ramirez in the 23. And out to the end of the top 20, Ian Meneses and Garen Hess in row 10.
Riley Hayes in the new number 92 rolls off 21st with Eduardo Muniz Jr. in the 22nd spot. His number 46 machine. Ryan Jones rolls off from 23rd with Alex Urbina and the Moo Moo machine rolling off 24th. Fidel Fabian had a fantastic season last time around. He rolls off from 25th with Jamie Wright in the 26th spot and his number 89 looking to turn things around in season number 3. Aaron Zangihi will be rolling off from 27th spot in his number 70, with Gabriel Dahari, a face we've seen here on the KBueno Racing Network, making his series debut here in the 28th spot. No qualifying time for these drivers here on back, so if you're any of these drivers, you essentially have forfeited your chance of trying to race your way in if you're not in a guaranteed spot. 29th goes to Jesse Moody, and Randall Payne round out our top 30. And looks like that will be our 30 truck field that we'll be having here for tonight. So we just mentioned that there's three total trucks that did not set a single lap time. So those three are absolutely banking on being the top six open drivers here tonight, Nate.
Absolutely. And again, those top open times, those are that top five qualifying times of open drivers. I mentioned I wanted to circle those. Dominic Barbagallo, Justin Johnson. These guys are up here in the front. Their times are good. They know that they have a good time and they can make it in without racing up to the top six. They've got a little less stress. They're going to be able to breathe a little easier, especially starting out front. Only 30 laps in these duels, Francisco, so it's going to get chaotic quick, but that's also less time that you've got to worry about guys trying to pass you if you're up front.
You mentioned it right there. 30 laps are what we have in store for these duels here tonight. We have the 100% fuel tanks as well for these super speedway races, which is new for this season, in efforts to try and reduce some of the fuel saving stuff that we normally see at these super speedways with all cars. And here, at least tonight, we shouldn't see it really to any extent. These trucks have a maximum distance of approximately 35 to 38 laps with their 100% tank. Nate, note says 30 laps. I think you could give me five, the maximum of 3 overtime attempts, and I think we'll still be good on the fuel count with all the caution laps that they'll end up running. So I think fuel won't be really of any concern here this evening. It's just going to be about track position and can you put yourself in the right spot to try and chase after this win. We're still going to have one more lap to go behind the iRacing official pace car before we go racing. What are going to be some of your keys to success here in these duels for these drivers that are trying to race their way in?
Like I just said, only it's only 30 laps that these guys have to deal with. So if you're out front, it's only 30 laps. You got to keep these guys behind you. If you're in the back, it's only 30 laps that you got to go to get into the top six of the open cars. Now, there's plenty of guys that are already locked in, but I look at the front of this field, there's a lot of open trucks out front. I mean, the entire top five open qualifiers are starting inside the top 10 of this race. They're going to be fighting to stay up there because, as much as I said, they know that their time is solid. They want to guarantee that they're in the races. I mean, if you're 1 or 2 here, you're good. You know that you're in. You have a top time. So even if you finish outside the top 6, your qualifying time is going to get you in. That's fine and dandy. You still want to get that track position.
Ultimately, being in the best spot is going to matter no matter what. And we do have some additional changes to talk about before this green flag, which we will see in effect in this duel here tonight and going forward. Choose cones, Nate, I think is probably going to be the biggest one to talk about all season long. Every caution, drivers will have to choose which lane they want to restart, make that decision clear and obvious to our new race control in Alexander Schumacher. He'll be determining whether someone violates that and gives them an end of line penalty, among other things. You have to basically choose whether you're going to be on the outside, essentially go all the way to the wall, or be on the inside, be close to that yellow line. Make it clear before then, or you're going to the back. And every restart, it's going to be choosing, making sure you go into the right line, you're with the right people, and that could very well determine future restarts and a chance at the win here tonight.
Be one heck of a show. 2 shows even. Got 60 laps between these two duels, so why not just sit back, relax, and enjoy what we got here for you on the KBueno Racing Network.
Gonna be a fun one to watch. Trucks are back out on the racetrack. It's been a fun off season. It's been a busy off season, but I think everyone's missed the opportunity of seeing some racing, seeing trucks going around, and that pace is going to make its way to the safety of pit road. 30 laps will make up our opening duel here from Daytona, and it's Dominic Barbagallo and Justin Johnson leading us to the green flag. See, it was an even launch there for both of those rows, Nate, as they remain side by side. No real free wide opportunities. But that outside lane looks like Justin Johnson's finding some second life as they start getting some momentum. You see the 30 truck pulling ahead almost 2-3 truck lengths. There's the 61 of Fall, the 22 of Showers. They've gotten clear. It looks like Fall will drift down with Johnson to take over the top spot as the field works their way to 3 and 4. There's Jaden Porter on the outside of 3 wide in the middle of the pack, but everybody gets through clean as we'll complete lap number 1. Here comes Duncan Fall now trying to take the top spot.
Seen a few different strategies for how you should orchestrate one of these super speedway races take place. You got the aggressors, Jaden Porter getting up to the top side, making that third lane. Duncan Fall fighting to get out in the front of this race. But then down the backstretch, you saw the 43 of Ian Menezes drop out of line, go all the way to the back of the field. That's a strategy of trying to avoid what we almost saw right there in turn 2. A near coming together at the front of this pack could block the track, and you want as much time to react as possible. But in only 30 laps, Francisco, that's the delicate balance. You can't stay back there the whole time. At some point, you got to hit the go button.
Everyone's going to be aggressive. You see right there an aggressive move by Kenneth Bueno right in front of Juan Escamilla as he gets down to the inside lane. And we were just talking about it, and you saw right there the Ligo and Kenneth making an aggressive move inside the top 10 to get to the bottom.
Blocking's part of the game here. So it's teamwork. Look at the top 3 there, stringing out right there.
Yeah, a little bit of a gap was formed up while they were side by side. Pacheco's broken free in 4th. Looks like Timothy Cook Jr. side by side now from the 5th place spot with Duncan Fall. And when these trucks are side by side like this, they stall out big time. And with the new aero model updates that the trucks and multiple NASCAR vehicles have been receiving over the past few months, it just stalls the trucks out. And you see they actually have the ears on the trucks now. You see right there nicely. That gives it different aerodynamic handling than it used to in the past. As you see right there, look how sideways Duncan Fall got at the same time as Pacheco and Kalo Hankins move up. Now they dart back to the bottom. Those are moves you can make on these fresh tires, but as the tires wear out, as you spend more laps, as they heat up, it's going to be a lot more squirrely. And that's what we heard Justin and Keelan talking about. The trucks definitely feel a lot more squirrely, and you could probably tell the difference between this on lap 4 and when we talk about 4 laps to go.
100%, and you're already kind of starting to see it. They're giving each other a pretty good amount of space in the corners. That's where everything is a little more delicate. You get on the back stretch, they're going to be laying on one another's bumpers. Here's Hankins with a nice shove from the 61 of Fall out to the front of this field. But when they get to the corner, you don't really want to be pushing unless you're right on that outside quarter panel. Otherwise, it's really going to upset that truck in front of you. It's hard to hold on when someone's holding it up right onto your tailgate. Backs of these trucks are so light, and it's so much more noticeable in the corners. You see up on top of the racetrack, Gabriel Dahari leading that third lane, Jared Wilson.
And I think an important factor, Nate, at least through 5 laps into this race, is that if you're one of those open cars, you have to try and be a top finisher. You can't rely on that qualifying time just in case. You never know if that second session, if everybody just goes faster, and it could knock you out. And I think that's what we're seeing out of guys like Gabriel Dahari. They were banking on getting a good finish. He's already broke his way into this top 10. He's moving with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer and Jared Wilson on this top lane, trying to make things go as everybody on the bottom is kind of stacking up there and goes middle 3.
He's trying to make moves. He's fighting to get to the front, and Dahari's a guy that's always going to be the aggressor in that situation. As we look up front, Duncan Faw's looking to get the lead, and Johnson hangs him out to dry. Nicholas Bauman's going to go up to help him out. Look at this run. Huge run from the 88 of Bauman, right up to the rear bumper of Faw, and just launches him out into just a nose ahead of Hankins. I thought it was going to be a bigger push, but that's another issue with the grip. He pushed him hard going into the corner. It makes that truck hard to handle for Duncan Faw. Probably had to burp the throttle just a little bit, play with the steering to make sure he kept all 4 tires down beneath him. But he's going to get that pass completed. He's getting a good shove. Speaking of good shoves, here comes Jared on the top side of the racetrack with help from Jared Wilson.
What a run there by Jonathan Jurgensmeyer and Jared Wilson. They go to the top, and they're going to go to the lead as there's a stack up further back headed by Kenneth Bueno. As most cars back there do drop some positions, but they keep it intact. As back to the front we look, they continue to go 3 wide as the front 4 trucks on the outside make it 5 almost. have cleared their way from the bottom. What a run here, as the top 4 consists of Jurgensmeyer, Wilson, Fabian, and Garrett Hess. Making his series debut, he drops down to the bottom, trying to take over the 3rd spot and lead the inside.
Being aggressive, trying to get away from those top three. Those top 3 on the outside lane, they're all working together. Those guys are teammates and allies on the racetrack. They've been good friends for a long time. They're going to be fighting with one another. They're trying to work together to get out in front of this race. See, Jared Wilson had a bit of a run there, but he pulls right back up behind the 0-0. Doesn't want to put anything in jeopardy. They want to get out front. They want to control this. They saw Talladega last season when the Dark Horse and BBR guys controlled the race. They want to emulate some of that. But everyone else, they've got another idea. Garrett Hess goes to the front. Nice shove from Bauman into Hari. And just like that, here comes Bauman.
And here comes Dari. He's going to go to the outside and try to take it 3 wide. Instead, Bauman makes the move to block, and Bauman takes over the lead of the race on lap number 8. And remember Nicholas Bauman, he led on the white flag lap of the main Daytona race just last season. Didn't end up winning that race after Rivers Jones made the pass off of turn 4 on the final lap. Bauman is consistently putting himself in positions to win at these super speedway races. What would that mean for him to win this duel here tonight and start the first race of season 3 on the top spot?
I mean, I think it would mean the world to any of these drivers just to be able to say they sat in victory lane in this race, in this series. It means a lot for the main Daytona race, but that's an even longer race than we have here. You just want to be able to start the season on the right foot. Bauman's a guy that's made the chase, but he's not really certified himself as a bona fide title contender in either of the first 2 seasons. He wants to change that. He wants to get that 88 a championship and be in the conversation for the entire duration of the year. It's going to be harder than ever with such a huge field. 80 drivers, Fran. 80 of them are signed up for this season of the KBRN Truck Series. I still can't believe that is a mind-bogglingly huge number.
And I think it's very important to mention that one of them that isn't going to be with us tonight in the duels is the defending champion of the series, Stephen Maggio, who went on a massive tear to win as many races as he did last time out, including the last super speedway race we were at Talladega. Just wait until he shows up on the racetrack. He's going to be a tough one to watch. Just look at the block Bauman makes onto Hari as they were starting to make some moves a little bit further back of that 0-0. And Duncan Fall through all of this has been able to sneak out ahead of the 88 with help from Jaden Porter and Christian Pacheco. But that outside, you see how well it's been working here. Better than recent memory, Nate. They've been able to get some runs, push forwards, and take the lead and hold it better than the bottom lane has really been able to do. We've only really seen the outside get clear for multiple positions. But now that the inside lane's there, it's clearly proving to be very difficult. And I'll tell you what as well, it's going to be difficult for this second group back here of Alex Urbina and Riley Hayes. They're running 27th and 28th, 8 seconds off the lead pack. It's going to be tough for them to get back into this without the help of yellow.
Riley Hayes, one of those drivers that's locked in to the main race at Daytona, but Alex Urbina's not. And that's the strategy of looking for a caution. I think we saw some spinners in the back. There it is.
Oh, multiple drivers involved. There's Ryan Jones, Kenneth Bueno. There's your pole sitter for this duel, Dominic Barbagallo. I think we saw a few other ones, RN Barnacle.
Ryan Jones, that's one of our open cars. Open trucks, rather. That's what you're looking for if you're one of those guys that was sitting in the back.
That's a strategy you could play on, and it's not ever really a bad strategy at these super speedway races to bank on these caution flags. It just always seems to happen at some given point, as we'll get the replay and get a look at what happened. So here we're looking at the 17 of Kenneth Bueno. He's on the outside lane. We saw him making some aggressive moves earlier in the race, but looks like the trouble started further ahead. You see him running back to the 71. There's the 43. It looks like the trouble may have started a little bit further up with a few different cars, so we'll try to get a better look at that here, Nate. But this domino effect is something we also see in these accidents, is that once something starts, it's very difficult for other drivers to avoid. As here we go now on board with Justin Johnson, the second place starter.
Hammer down top of the racetrack. Ryan Jones slides up. It's a squeeze play. Jones comes right down into the 13, back up the racetrack, and that's the stack up that we saw Kenneth and the others get involved in. And we saw a similar incident earlier in the race, also with Kenneth Bueno, when he backed it up into Muniz, and everyone was able to get things sorted then. Not the case this time, as the crash really starts further up. And plenty of open cars with damage in this one. I mean, the 66, we mentioned the 08, the 71 and 30, also open cars. They qualified 1 and 2. I know we're still waiting for the Duel 2 qualifying results, but I bet you those guys are really happy that they started on the front row for this duel, because they're thinking that they may need to lean on those qualifying laps. Everybody coming down pit road, trying to get whatever repairs they can get done.
Yeah, that's a very important thing you mentioned, because that makes it difficult for anybody else, not just in this duel, but that second duel, to rely on qualifying times when guys who qualified at the very front aren't one of the 6 highest finishers, in which case now you're really needing for some luck in terms of your own finish. So it's constantly a moving target with these drivers that is going to be shaking up until the very moment you cross the start finish line, not just even in this duel, but even that second duel. If you're one of the 25 drivers that's already locked in 24, we need to remove Timothy Tyler and his ineligibility with the I rating cap. You're really looking at 24 drivers that know that they're going to be racing next week, 12 in each duel. So you're wondering, okay, where are the rest of the spots coming from? That's exactly what everybody's going to be vying for. It's the rest of those positions. And you do the math. We have 28 cars currently on the racetrack, and 12 of them know they're racing. That's over half the field that doesn't know if they're going to be in this race or not.
And it's, again, top 6 open finishers in either duel, and then the last 4 spots, they're the highest qualifiers overall. Now, logic would dictate, with no changes to the track, right? This track stays the same. One would assume that it's probably going to end up being 2 and 2, the top 2 from each qualifying session, but that's not a guarantee. It could be the top 4 open qualifiers from this session. It could be the top 4 open qualifiers from the next session. It could be a mix of both, and it also is determined by who makes it through. But the reason why I made such a big deal about the 71 and 30 being on the front row, those are good times. No matter what the situation is in the next duel, the times that they laid down in qualifying were good times. And I feel like they're probably not going to be as nearly on pins and needles as a driver like the 08 is, Ryan Jones, where he doesn't have that kind of qualifying time to lean on now. He's really going to be stressing about getting the damage fixed and hunting his way back through the field. We're already halfway home in duel number 1, Francisco. It's really going to be time to get the hammer down now.
Yeah, we're going to see the intensity pick up even more than it had been, which they were going 3 wide in. As there you saw the 08, there's the 30 of Justin Johnson, as he's got some pretty significant left front damage to his truck. He's going to try to limp that around, but like you mentioned, he's got a good lap time to go off of in hopes of trying to make something happen. You see, everybody has dealt the choose, and Bauman decided he was going to go to the bottom. He's working with brand new teammate at Dark Horse, Jaden Porter. He's made the switch over to that team. And on the outside, that puts Duncan Fall with Gabriel Tahari in 6th place runner Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. So first instance, we get to see these drivers choose. Anything to note of these drivers and where they decided to line up for this restart up at the front?
Well, I'm noting Jaden Porter lining up right behind Nicholas Bauman. They worked together really well at Talladega at the back end of last season, and they're right there with one another once again. I'm also noting a little further back, Jared Wilson choosing to stay right on the back bumper of the 00. Probably going to try to keep working with him. Part of that Turn 1 Autosport Goat Inc. alliance. That umbrella of drivers, and there's a few umbrellas of drivers, and we've added some more with such an expanded field this season, but that's certainly one of the larger cohorts in the KBRN Truck Series that's been among the perennial contenders. And especially on super speedways, you get these big groups, these big cohorts, like we see with the T1A and GOAT guys, the BBR Dark Horse guys. They work together, they find each other, and they're going to stick with each other. Add Dirty South Racing to that second mix, too. You see Keelan Belsha sitting there 4th row on the bottom. JJ Hill right behind him.
Yeah, can't forget Dirty South Racing, Nate. Former winners here at the Daytona International Speedway at the hands of Rivers Jones, who won't be in duel number 2 tonight, but he has a spot for next week's event. through to the points provisional. As they're back under the green flag, Nicholas Baumann gets a great restart, and look what him and Jaden Porter did. They both got clear, and they go up top. They saw the outside lane moving on that first stint, and they jump up there immediately, hoping to use that momentum, but also it puts Christian Pacheco as the leader of that inside lane.
I tell you what, that inside lane, it's getting me a little nostalgia to the NASCAR heat days, because guess who dropped down to the bottom of the track right behind Christian Pacheco? It's Jared Wilson. They were teammates and best buddies for a whole lot of time, running plate races on NASCAR heat games on the PlayStation, and now it's just like old times, on board with the 07 as he's pushing to the front of Daytona. How about this for a nice hit of nostalgia with these two?
A bit of a throwback for these two that dates back almost 10 years. For the 07 and the 3, but nothing doing against the 77 and the 88 as they hold strong on that outside lane. And we've seen KBueno Racing, Dark Horse Racing, as the caution flag waves once again. Looks like trouble in the back. Randy Showers, some big front end damage. See the smoke coming out of that 22. That's going to be troublesome for the elder of the Showers.
One of those guys that's locked in. So a disappointing result tonight to have this kind of damage, and you know, with again as little time as we have left, may not be able to get all that repaired, especially with that smoke coming out of it. But he's going to be able to fight next week. He's grateful for a long race. Let's take a look at what happened. It's coming together.
Oh, it blew up immediately as well.
So I was concerned about that smoke coming out the back of the truck as well. But everyone just kind of gets together. We'll have a better look right here. 29 of Eli O'Quinn on the outside, and yeah, the 46 of Moon just gets up the track into the 29, who comes down into the 22. Alex Urbina got a lot of damage in that one as well. Remember, he was the guy that was staying way in the back with Riley Hayes. This goes to show you can't dodge them all.
At some point, it's going to be presented right in front of you, and it's going to be up to what you can do. Here's the onboard from Kenneth Bueno, who was involved in the previous accident. Sees the car go up on its side, and then, whew, a little bit luckier than Urbina was there.
Absolutely.
And here's the field now, catching up to the iRacing official pace car here. We'll be inside of approximately 10 laps to go by the time we should get back to the green flag racing here. And it's still Nicholas Baumann and Jaden Porter, 1-2. And this is where the choose cone plays its big event. Normally what we would see, Nate, on these previous iterations of restarts is Porter and Baumann would have to split the front row no matter what, and it would be up to Baumann to decide where they go, and Porter kind of has to go the other direction. Everybody files on suit. With this choose cone, they could line up nose to tail and avoid the process of dragging each other down and trying to push each other clear in the lane they want to. We saw them move up high on the previous restart. They very well could just both say, hey, we're going to go up to the top here together anyways. So what do you make of the strategy call that those teammates could find each other in?
It's always the question when you come into these restarts, and I think it was 2018, 2019, Joey Logano was calling the Xfinity race, and he called it the okie dokie, when they dropped down in front of one another and worked together that way. I really don't think that you can go about it in an incorrect manner as long as it's executed properly. I think proper execution, no matter what, is going to put the both of you out front. But I really liked what they did last restart, where they timed it so well. They just jumped up the hill and blocked the other lane and really made the lane that was starting behind them super weak. So I think that if you can execute that the same way you did, that's the way to go about it. But it's a matter of, can you get that kind of perfect execution again?
We'll get the choose cone with the 1 to green here, presumably as they approach the start-finish line. So we'll actually get to see how that all plays out, not just for the top two, but for all the drivers behind, since obviously everybody has to say in which direction they want to go and how that could affect their restart. All it takes is picking the right line and it moves, and you can gain anywhere from 2 to 5, 6, 8 positions out on the racetrack. I know you're expecting me to say something else, but we'll save that for later in the show. It's still pretty early as we're approaching. We're choosing the choose cone here now, and like we mentioned, there they go up to the top side for your 2 leaders. Next 2 go to the bottom. As you're seeing everybody where they want to go. A lot of bottom takers there. Could free up the top side for some guys to gain some spots. And an excellent example of everybody making it clear. And like we mentioned, those 2 teammates.
Daytona's kind of nice because you have that seam right there.
Yeah.
It gets a little easier when there's that seam on the racetrack. Yeah, okay, we're going to go north or we're going to go south.
Yeah. Yeah. Per the admins, the explanation was to try and make it obvious. So try to avoid going anywhere around that seam and you won't get a penalty. So I think everybody did a great job there on being able to demonstrate just exactly how that's going to work for us in this series. And now the next part. How well can Bauman and Porter execute this rooster from that outside lane after the choose has been committed? We saw them do a great job of it last time on the bottom. Now they'll be up top. And what can Duncan Fall do with Christian Pacheco? Those 2 aren't necessarily teammates, but now they're forced into a situation where if they want to get some track position, they're going to have to work together.
Absolutely, they're going to have to work together. And look at who's behind Pacheco. We mentioned Keelan Belcher, but then right behind him, Juan Escamilla. He was involved in a little bit of an incident earlier on in the race, that stack up earlier under green flag conditions and really fell back. He's worked his way back up. One of those open cars, and he's doing what he can to race his way in right now. And he's in that position.
Still multiple trucks in this top 15 with a chance to race their way in. Garrett Hess in the number 47 running 11th. Aaron Zanghi in 12th. Dominic Barbagello, who started on the pole position for this duel, and Fidel Fabian within our top 15. Into the United Rentals restart zone, there you see the launch, and there you see the push. Porter helping out his teammate as Duncan Fall tries to fight for the bottom, and Pacheco strands him down there. He moves up to work with his teammate Jared Wilson, and Fall can't find a gap. He's going to be stranded on the bottom until Belcher could offer some assistance.
And that assistance is a long way away, and it may not even come at all. Belcher was right to the bottom, and Fall had to hurry his way down there. That inside lane just did not get hooked up super well, and Christian Pacheco abandoned everyone. They're still dropping positions. It's like there's an anchor on the back of the 61. He is not up to speed, and they're falling right into the sucker hole. J.J. Hill's going to get up there and try to help his teammate Belcher. Now Craig Lauenslager is dropping to the bottom. He wants to go ahead and be leading the line, but again, there's just nobody else down there. Who's going to go and join that bottom lane and make a move, or are we going to ride until we get to 3 or 2 laps to go, and then we start fighting up front?
We'll have to see how this works out, but you see in the middle lane, Aaron Zanghi has gotten in front of Duncan Fall, and it's dropped the anchor effect of the 61 with the 67. Of Juan Escamilla now leading the bottom with Garrett Hess in tow as they're 3 wide from all these positions. And how about Jamie Wright on that outside lane? He's going to try to move his way up into the top 10. That's 8 trucks now clear on the outside lane. They're trying to fight back on that bottom, but that outside has clearly been really fast tonight. But look at the run that they've gotten in that middle. Duncan falling now. Keelan Belcher to the inside.
They're fighting one another back there, and that helps these leaders out a whole bunch. They like seeing that 3 wide. They just want to get away from everybody as quick as they can.
And as long as they're 3 wide, it's going to be very difficult to mount a charge to this group of single file cars that are clear of it all. They're not experiencing as much aerodynamic loss. They're pushing each other really well up there as well. It's just going to be very hard. They're going to have to get into 2 solid form lines. There they go. And finally, no one going around in the middle of the field, but it looks like someone did go around. That's Eduardo Mundez Jr. and Ryan Jones off the racing surface. No caution.
Well,
and Gabriel Tahari.
Well, was all the way in the middle of the pack. So she's the one that got spun way out of the racetrack after contact with Jared Wilson.
And multiple
really
trucks.
Also thins up this pack.
Yeah, no caution, as nobody really went around until they were off the racetrack. We do have a race control, Nate, but we are using iRacing official cautions only. for these races to avoid any kind of missed timings or judgment calls to be made, leaving it completely up to the sim as otherwise would. And what that does, it leaves us with a 15 truck pack.
Yeah, and it's super thinned out. And now, if you're one of the open cars up in this group, the message is clear. You just gotta, it makes this a whole lot easier because there's also a lot of cars that are already locked in. Bauman, Porter, look at Jamie Wright on the bottom. Where'd he come from?
Making some big moves as this pack might be thinned out, but it still has a lot of energy, as that's Keelan Belsha, who nearly cut off the 67 as they're still tailing it. That was a close call between the 18 and the 67, but they keep it straight.
And now the top line is really starting to just hook up and drive away. So much more momentum, and Jamie Wright seeing all that happen in his mirror. He's like, you gotta be kidding me. I get to the lead of this line. Things are looking good. I might have a chance to fight for a dual win. And now he's gonna have to go all the way back and kind of restart. He's still just by himself on the bottom of the racetrack, maybe trying to pull into the back of the line. And he does just that right in behind the 9 of Cook.
And you see this has basically almost gone single file to the top. And it becomes increasingly a question of Jaden Porter, how long do you wait? This obviously isn't like the main race next week, but it could give you a chance to learn what you can do if you're in this situation. The biggest thing that I'm sure neither one of them want to do is hand this one away to somebody else. But if you're Jaden Porter, if you see a run from behind, do you block it? Do you take it? And how long do you wait to leave this 88 out in the top spot? He's going to have 5 laps to figure that out before someone makes a decision for them.
You also got to try to measure what your opponents in this front pack are going to do. What are their priorities? The 07, the 3, those are both open trucks. Same with Zangi in the 13, the 78 with Marmagayo, Hess, the 67 of Escamilla. That's your top 6 as far as the open trucks go right now. Where are their priorities? If you're Sheffield or Wilson, you're probably willing to just stay put. You want to win the race, but you want to make the main as well. So you might be content to just ride in line all the way until we're coming into turns 3 and 4 on the final lap. If you're one of those guys that's in this melee where they're too wide, you've got to try to find the loud pedal and get up to the front and give yourself some breathing room right now.
And here we are with Jonathan Jorgensmeyer, who currently sits in a 5th place spot. And this is generally a pretty decent spot to be in from that 3rd to 5th place. You're far back enough to where you can still mount a charge, but you're still close enough to the cars around you to where if someone makes a push, you can step out at the right enough time and be in the right spot to take advantage of a well-timed run. You see right there, speaking of a run, there's Garrett House trying to form one on the inside. He's got help from the 9 of Timothy Cook. As they go 3 wide, Duncan fall through the middle. With now 4 laps to go, can anyone mount a charge on this inside?
Benson Cook, both open trucks, trying to get into that top 6. They're there right now.
And they've got a little run going. They're side by side with 3rd. Look at Cook push that 47 up there to get side by side. Yeah, and here comes another push from Jamie Wright. That's going to get them almost up to Porter. As you see Porter at the same time get up to Bauman, and at one point do they decide perhaps blocking could be the best way to go, as now Wright's to the inside of Cook. That's going to make them 3 wide.
And that completely killed the momentum of the inside lane. All that work that they just did, all that work they just put in is for naught. They're going to fall way to the back. I thought that was a little early to step out for the 89. He's got another inside lane working. Kenneth Bueno back in the picture. But they had, I mean, they were up there nearly wheel to wheel with 2nd place. So much good progress. And just like that, they fall right back to 3 wide. And now everything is reset. We see the 13 in the wall right then.
And you see they're working that middle now, trying to see if they can mount a charge back up there. And you see how close they are to making contact, nearly tagging each other bumper to nose to tail. As they just about make contact there, Garrett Hess with the outside of Aaron Zangi. As, oh, they're going to go. Up into the wall goes Jamie Wright. Duncan Fall slams into it as well. The caution flag waves, and we'll get overtime in this duel.
Man, I mean, they were all over the place. You said it, Francisco. Beating and banging. And all those guys that fell to the back after that backstretch incident, they have a second chance. Let's take a look, see what Jamie Wright saw. He had the worst of this. They all start shaking up. It starts up with the 71. He just gets hit and turns left, and oh, shades of Ryan Blaney for Jamie Wright. That's a hard hit into the outside wall. It's another great run. He started toward the back of this group, of this field, worked his way up, gave himself an opportunity to win this duel race, and instead it's gonna end on the back of the truck.
Not the way he was hoping for Jamie Wright, as we'll try to get a secondary replay of the incident. First truck we saw going around was the 71. That was our pole sitter, Dominic Barbagallo. As we get the replay here, you saw the contact with Garrett Hess down the entire back straightaway. Fall creeps through the middle. You see light contact is what gets him around right hard into the wall. A few other trucks involved. Kenneth squeaking by on the bottom. Fall getting some more damage as well. And like you mentioned, a lot of those trucks that were further back after the whole split up that happened a few laps prior, they're now feeling really good about having missed this whole ordeal, as they now get another opportunity. Here's the onboard from Juan Escamilla.
This shows how on edge all these trucks are. Really good avoidance from Escamilla. Got on the brakes, was able to avoid the truck coming down the hill at him. He's going to have a chance to go and fight in this overtime restart. Trying to make it into the main.
There you see Barbagallo go. He's going to pay it. Remember, he set the fastest time in this session, so I think part of him is confident that he can get in with that lap time. Of course, it still depends on the results of Duel 2. But you have to think that the driver with the fastest time in this session could be one of the 4 fastest overall. As he'll slide it into his stall, among a few others that make it down pit road, including second place starter Justin Johnson, Aaron Barnacle, and Jamie Wright, who towed it to the garage and out of this race. Other drivers that will be out of this race besides the 89 machine are the 22 of Randy Showers. He's been sitting in the pit lane with that blown up engine, 13 laps down. 29 of Eli O'Quinn, also extensive damage, and Alex Urbina in the 97 Moo machine, also out of this race. Out of those drivers out of this race, Nate, I believe the only driver that wasn't already previously guaranteed a spot into this show was this 29 of Eli O'Quinn, so it looks like he won't be one of those that's going to advance.
Alex Urbina as well, not locked in and out of this race, out of a chance to make it to the main at Daytona. You got to think the same thing as well for some of those guys involved in this most recent incident. You already know that you're going to have to fight the 2 guys that did qualify in front of you, Barbagallo and Johnson. So if you qualified behind them, I think you no longer can really lean on your time. You have to know that they're ahead of you. And if you're expecting 2 to make it in on speed from this duel, they're the ones that are going to take it.
It looks like Juan Escamilla may have made a mistake. I think he may have gone around the pace car, because it's scoring him as the race leader right now as the field is going on by. So you see him pulled over to the apron. We'll let everybody go as we're getting ready for the choose here. And once again, unsurprisingly, the top 2 will go together on that outside lane. Pacheco will take the front row. Jared Wilson, though, will take the outside with Jurgensmeyer. That puts Juan Escamilla in the inside, or actually not Juan Escamilla, as he was dropping back in positions, but lining up on the inside row. I think everybody's kind of wondering what's going on here with this 67 machine, as they're not quite sure where he scored. Looks like only now is Garrett Hess going to close up and take over that 3rd place spot, as everybody there on back lines up properly. Looks like Escamilla will be restarting in the back. When you take a look at this top 10, you got a number of drivers that have a chance of qualifying with a solid enough finish. Christian Pacheco, Garrett Hess, Timothy Cook, Jared Wilson, Kaloa Hankins, Riley Hayes, Aaron Jengi, and Ian Meneses. Those are just a few of those drivers that are sitting inside the top 15. And I definitely listed more than 6, Nate, so this could come down all the way to the checker flag.
It certainly will be. It's overtime. So It's going to be, it's always close. It's always close at Daytona. It's always close in a green-white checkered. It's going to be close as long as it doesn't end up in a heap of scrap metal at the bottom of one of these turns.
It's turned into a chaotic second half of this opening duel. It was 30 scheduled laps. If this is our only attempt, this could be 33 laps that we end up running. And it's going to be attempt number 1 at overtime. We'll have maximum of 3 attempts. If we take the white flag at any point, the race is official. We'll race it to the checkered. If the yellow flag comes out before then, we'll rack them up and do it again up until that third and final try. It's going to be Nicholas Baumann leading us to the green flag with Christian Pacheco alongside him, but he's going to have help from Jaden Porter, his teammate. Great launch for the pair up front. Jared Wilson's going to try to creep up into the third place spot, and he will, as Pacheco actually was able to slide in there, so that lines up those pair of teammates. So now it's a 2-on-2 at the front of the field. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer is going to end up in the 5th place spot. Garrett Hess might try to fill that gap. He's going to have help from Timothy Cook, as the top 6 or so are single file.
And we got a crash in the back. Oh, up and over! Riley Hayes!
Oh my, shades of Matt Crafton going up and over on the back straightaway. Lands on all 4 tires with relatively little damage. Wow.
Drive away from the flip.
You don't see that every day, Nate.
Certainly don't.
Unbelievable.
That means we get another overtime attempt.
Yep, this does mean it's a second attempt at overtime. But impressively, Riley Hayes goes for a wild ride on the back straightaway at Daytona and is able to drive away from it. Here's the replay. Take us through it. As you saw 4 wide back there.
Well, 4 wide, this is not nearly as wide as Talladega, so it can be tough for 4 wide to work, and then they just get a squeeze play. And everyone's still pushing. You get that 92 blowing up and over. You know, Francisco, we mentioned it at the top of the show that we're on 100% fuel for these dual races, which you can see that's about 38 laps, what we said. And you said the only way we'd be concerned about fuel is if we get all the way on overtime. So we're already on overtime too. You think any of these drivers might just be a little bit worried?
I don't think they'll be too concerned, Nate. We definitely had a lot of cautions over the past 15 or so laps. That's been plentiful of opportunities, and I think most of the field, I think save for 10 drivers perhaps, have made a trip down the pit lane at some point in this race. So I don't think we've reached that territory. I think perhaps if we had gone green up until the very end, would that have been a situation? I think everybody's just kind of found themselves in a spot where they probably have saved the fuel and they're going to try to just get to the end or put themselves in the right enough spot. Here's the onboard from Daharian. Watch this. This is going to be a view.
Typically not a sight that you want to see, the top side of your race truck as you're driving down the backstretch here at Daytona.
And there's all sorts of angles really to look at this from, Nate. It's just, you look at one, you look at the other, and well, it's just remarkable. Here's the onboard from JJ Hill, the local boy, and watch this. Backs it into the wall there at the last second. And remember, Nate, a few years ago, all of this used to be grass on the back straightaway. But a few years ago, around 2024, after Ryan Preece's accident here in one of the summer races in 2023, they repaved the entire backstretch to be asphalt. And it has allowed for more scrubbing to go on. It hasn't completely prevented flipping. We saw Josh Berry do that a few years. Probably the first race since in the summer. I think it was Josh Berry going up and over in that part of the racetrack. So it didn't completely prevent it, but it certainly has aided. You see all that paved area on the inside. I can certainly tell you the IMSA fans weren't too happy, as it kind of altered the way the bus stop was driven. But for NASCAR, at least in oval side, it has allowed for cars to lose speed in a quicker, more effective, and safer way to avoid an incident like Priest's.
And really not dig into that grass, which can create that lift, which is what happened with Priest. The car kind of dug into the grass, and when it popped out, it created torque that kind of threw the car, kind of similar to Ryan Newman's flip in the tri-oval in 2003. And as you come through the tri-oval to choose here, I mean, you got to think how sick some of these guys up in the front have got to be, because they were sitting pretty single file out front twice when a caution came out to start an overtime period. I think the strategy here is pretty clear. It's pretty much everyone takes the top, Francisco. I think we're going to see a restart similar to what we saw last time through from this front group.
And we saw a few guys go to the bottom, and I think they're probably thinking the same thing I am, Nate, in that those are free positions. And also, all it takes is one good launch out of the bottom, and that's almost 4 or 5 positions you've made up. Look at Duncan Fall, who was almost outside the top 10. He now finds himself second on the inside row. Aaron Zangui also now finds himself with a chance at a top 5 run. Kenneth Bueno, who has been at the center of a lot of the issues we've seen in the second half of this race, he's in the top 10 now as well. Just look at how many trucks have taken that outside lane. It adds up. The math don't lie, and when it's 2 laps to go, the track position is certainly the one you probably would choose.
100%. All it takes is one person in this, what appears to be, at least from the outside perspective right now, an agreement among this front-running few for most of this race of how to organize these restarts. All it takes is one guy to not play nice. And this is anybody's race. I mean, I look at the 46 of Eduardo Muniz Jr. He's been involved in a couple of incidents today, and he's sitting there still with a chance to make it into the main event at Daytona in that pilot flying J46.
It's an homage to Michael Lynette, who we lost in the last offseason of NASCAR. He's won here at Daytona, Michael Lynette, in a very similar paint scheme to that one in the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Muniz will try to do his best here to get that done in his series debut in this duel, as the pace car will exit the tri-oval. Attempt number 2 at overtime is now under green. Nicholas Baumann leads us to it. Another great launch. Him and Porter get off well. Can Pacheco do anything to slide up in front of his teammate? Looks like he will. Jared Wilson leaves him the gap, as Duncan Fall, once again for the second time tonight, struggling to get anything going on that inside, as they are falling back tremendously here.
46, right to the bottom.
Massive 3 wide off of turn number 2. They're just unable to get any momentum going. The top 10 are clear on the outside. Big move by the 66, but he's got some front end damage. Not exactly the truck you want to lead. Here comes Keelan Belshaw, though, to provide some assistance as the inside tries to form something up. They're up to about the 8th place spot, but just nowhere to go. Up front, Nicholas Baumann. Yeah, they're getting single file now, but we've taken the white flag. It's Nicholas Baumann and Jaden Porter taking to it.
And where does the move come from? I don't think that Pacheco and Wilson will be content to stay in line. They want to know that they're going to advance into the race, but I think 3 and 4 is where the move's going to come. They've got gaps built up.
How much do you risk it if you're Christian Pacheco or Jared Wilson? You're in a good spot to advance.
Garrett Hess.
Garrett Hess on the inside, trying to make a charge here at the last second with Kaloa Hankins. The 30 is also there to make a move into turn 3. There goes Pacheco. He goes to the inside. They're unable to block it. There's a crash in the back. They're working their way through turn 4. They're side by side. Coming down to the line. Running down towards the checkered. Baumann gets turned. Here comes Jaden Porter to win it. Unbelievable.
And with that incident down at the bottom of the track, we'll wait for scoring. They lost a whole lot of time from the front of this field.
And Jaden Porter, by 17 thousandths of a second, wins duel number 1 after the top 2 collide. Jonathan Jorgensmeyer taking second. Garrett Hess in third. And for Christian Pacheco, who was leading or running up front, side by side for the lead. He finishes fourth and Bauman in sixth. We'll try to get our scoring sorted out
Man,
here, Nate, to determine who's all in and or who are our six highest finishing cars that actually will be advancing to the duel. But one thing's for sure, right there on your screen is your pole sitter for next week's race.
right in the Dente, all the way to victory lane. And it looks like he's going to try to recreate, to the best of his ability on iRacing, the burnout that this paint scheme did at Talladega earlier this year.
I'm not sure if he's sitting on his chair while he's doing this. He did that at Kansas when he won and dropping the hammer. He kind of got up on his chair while pressing the throttle. I'm sure that's what he's trying to do right now, but nonetheless, in duel number one, it's going to be a trip to Paul's setup shop victory lane for Jaden Porter.
Controlled the race with Nicholas Bauman all the way through that entire second half. And he was there when it mattered, right at the end. Crash in front of him and the seas part.
Let's get a second look at that run to the finish here, Nate, because we saw a few incidents further back, but we saw it up in the front. That's where it was all going down on this final lap. And as it's all unfolding, just take us through what you see.
Well, first and foremost, this is a big move from Hess, Hankins, Johnson, trying to get back up into the front of this field. This kind of reminds me of Kevin Harvick and Austin Dillon in the 2021 Daytona 500. But as they roll down the backstretch, I kind of figured that this is where the move was going to come from, with Wilson and Pacheco dropping into turn 3 for the final time. Pacheco times it beautifully, gets to the bottom. Jared goes with him. Jared goes with him. They all crash back there. And now it's going to be between these front four. And the 88 and the 07 kind of start door banging a little bit. Everybody gets kind of together as they cross through the restart zone. And that's where everything falls away. And everything falls in line for Jaden Porter. You take a second look at this. The 88 just gets sideways and collects up everybody. And this is just how close it got here at the front. And look at how many open cars are right here, by the way. The 47, the 30, the 6, the 07. They're all going to be in it. The same with the 3 who was just out of that frame. My goodness, what an image for the end of duel number 1.
If you think that was intense, we still have another 30 scheduled laps to run with drivers trying to work their way into this main show. So still a lot yet to go here tonight, Nate. This isn't the final bit of racing we're watching, but a good bit of action in store. We'll try to see if we can get opportunities to talk with our top 3 finishers of this duel. Also, we have a little bit of an intermission period between now and our second duel. The second duel should commence qualifying in about 15 minutes since the checkered flag was waved, so we still have a lot of time to burn. And I do see that we have available our duel 1 winner, so let's get an opportunity to get him into the booth and talk to him for the first time this season. It is Jaden Porter. And Jaden, unbelievable run you had there with your teammate and Nicholas Bauman to run 1-2. It looked like you had to push them there to the victory off of turn 4 as they were side by side in front of you. But it looks like there was some contact. Around they go, the C's part, and just barely ahead of Jonathan Jorgensmeyer at the line. Talk us through those restarts and what you were trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the top was kind of overpowered, or wasn't overpowered, but it was the lane to be in. Not many people really got the bottom to like connect. I don't think the bottom had like many guys stay committed to it. Is why it didn't work. But yeah, me and Nick, we played them perfectly. I mean, we didn't change up anything we did. We went as soon as we got to the box and played out perfectly. And didn't really have to do a lot of pushing either. So I was able to like keep my temps going to where when we needed to push, I was able to push for however long I needed to push. And at the end there, kind of, I think we could have played it a little bit better. Maybe I could have been pushing a little longer. I didn't trust how long I could push on my temps, and maybe it wouldn't allowed the bottom to make that run. And then out of 4, for once on a super speedway, I guess the seas parted for me, and we are able to get the Chili's truck to victory lane. So feels good to win with Chili's again.
Jaden, we saw the '07 and the 3 work together in turn 3 to make that move. Were you expecting it turn 3 last lap the entire time, or were you kind of on edge waiting for them to go?
I was on it. I knew it was coming in turn 3. I When we got off turn 2, I was like, okay, someone's gonna make the move to turn 3. It was either gonna be Jared or it was gonna be the '07. Both of them did. And I told Nick in the call, I'm like, be ready to block because there's gonna be a run somewhere that happens. And I think he may have played a little bit of a teammate game or didn't want to leave a teammate. He probably could have blocked down there and probably won the race, I think. But at least one of us won. But yeah, I was expecting the run into turn 3 the whole time. I knew it was gonna happen. That's kind of how it always plays out when there's single file off turn 2.
Well, Jaden, it was your first time in victory lane in this series in a dual effort, but you are now the pole sitter for next week's main event. Any last words you have from victory lane here? Looking forward to next week.
Uh, Excited. I had really good pace. Was able to kind of control where I was at after qualifying in the back, but we get to start up front next week. Hopefully, we can stay up front and lead every lap and not have to go to the back at any point. And feels good to win my first race on Dark Horse and to the duel. Feels good to win a super speedway too. I guess kind of counts. I don't know if we're really gonna count it, but yeah, it feels good to win.
And anybody want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for you and the whole 77 team?
Yeah, I like think around a Dark Horse Racing. All my teammates, me and Nick worked really well. I hope Juan made the race. He had a little bit of internet connection issues. We'll have to see about that. Thanks to Chili's, like always. They're the best. Um, if you haven't had Chili's, go ahead and go to Chili's because you'll never taste better food than Chili's. And thanks everyone. Thanks you guys for doing the broadcast. Everyone who hosts this league, and we'll see you next week.
I'll try to get that triple dipper and share a picture with you, Jaden, and sporting of the Chili's car you ran here tonight. Congratulations on this win and on the pole. We'll hope to see you out there next week.
All right, thank you.
That's Jaden Porter, Nate, winner of duel number 1 and pole sitter for next week's race. So a good start to his speed wakes for the number 77 as he takes over the top spot. We don't currently have available the two drivers. Actually, yes, we do. We have the final driver to make it into this race next week, and you're caught up with Timothy Cook Jr., the last driver to qualify in.
Hello.
Timothy, congratulations on making it into the main race at Daytona. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of ebbing and flow in that entire race. Take me through it from your perspective.
Yeah, honestly, it was pretty chaotic. The bottom lane didn't seem really roll very well, but me and the 47 got hooked up pretty good and made some good progress. But overall, it was a pretty chaotic race towards the end.
And Timothy, all night it was just in the middle of mess. You find yourselves in accidents around you, accidents involving you, but at the end you made the right moves at the right time. What was going through your mind through those overtime restarts, trying to get yourself in position to be able to advance?
Really just trying to stay with the 47. Me and him worked together pretty good. But other than that, just trying to go where the people in front of me went, trying to keep it in line and just make the right moves, like I said, make make the smart moves as well.
And before we let you go from this dual finish here tonight, anybody want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for you and the whole 9 truck team?
I'd like to give a shout out to all the KBRN admins, Kenneth, um, and you guys up in the booth for making this happen. It's really exciting season coming up with all these new entries.
Appreciate the time you take with us, Timothy. Congratulations on qualifying for the main event next week. We hope to see you out there.
Awesome, thank you.
as Timothy Cook Jr. finishes the race in 10th and is the last known driver to qualify for tonight's show. Of course, all those drivers that set a lap time still awaiting their fate and what happens in duel number 2 in order to know if they're in or not. But one driver that is unfortunately not going to be a part of the show next week is going to be the number 46 of Eduardo Munoz Jr. And Eduardo, you ran a pretty solid race out there. You're running in a good enough spot. But once the checkered flag waved, it was just mere hundredths of a second that separated you from a spot in advancing. Talk us through how the race went for you and what more do you think you could have done differently to lock yourself a spot for next week?
Yeah, not the best showing for me. Got pretty stuck in the traffic jam early on there, got a bit impatient. Obviously caused that second caution. Apologize to the person I washed up and hit, but yeah, it was still a fun time. Plate racing at the end of the day is just plate racing. Nothing really that you can do about it, but um, all you can do is move on and improve.
Yeah, and Eduardo, you mentioned there was a handful of incidents that were kind of in your lap, and even still, you were able to have a shot there at the end. What's it like just trying to keep your head in the game?
Yeah, so my plan there was just on the choose cone, choose whatever line had the least people. I knew that the top side would stack up and most people would stick up there, so I decided to gamble, go to the bottom. And it looked like it was going to work, but then we kind of just didn't have that much help at the end there. So it is what it is. Got some friends in the league. They made it in. Glad for them. Got some friends in Duel 2 as well. And running the 46 car in memory of Michael Annette. So just glad that we finished the race.
We appreciate the time you take with us, Eduardo. And before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps makes this happen for you and the whole 46 truck team?
Yeah, I want to thank Kenneth Bueno. He's an old friend of mine from back then, and my teammates, Garrett Hess, Keola Hankins, Connor Brandon, Sartaj Bond, Jason Nelson, all those guys.
Appreciate the time you take with us, Eduardo. Unfortunate that you couldn't qualify for next week's show, but we do hope to see you out there on the racetrack throughout season number 3. Thank you for taking part in this, and we hope to see you out there soon.
Thank you.
That's Eduardo Munoz Jr. finishes 11th and just misses out on an opportunity to race for next week. Well, Nate, that's the conclusion of duel number 1. What's your brief summary as to what we saw out there and what we could expect in the next one?
We saw a lot of chaos there in duel number 1, and if you've been following NASCAR for any amount of time, you probably know the way duels go. One's calm, one's chaotic. If this was considered calm, I'd hate to see what chaotic really looks like. I think we could be in for a good show in Duel 2.
Well, we'll be right there in a few minutes' time. We'll take a break and step aside between this intermission period, but we'll be back with duel number 2 on the other side of this break. Congratulations to Jane Porter on winning duel number 1 and claiming the pole for next week's race. Can't wait to see what duel 2 has in store for us.
It's good.
It's good, man. How'd you get it?
I got it all through the Wawa Rewards app.
All through the app?
All through the app.
All through the app. The world is my oyster. On the Wawa app, you can get all of your favorites and pick up at any time. Gotta have a Wawa.
Thousand Islands Cruette in Clayton, New York. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come in for a tasting, and our helpful and knowledgeable staff will help you find the perfect olive oils or vinegars to add that perfect touch to your next meal. We have monthly specials and sales, as well as new pairings and recipes, so there's always something new to try when you visit. The Thousand Islands Cruette on James Street in Clayton. And don't forget, hey, no touchy the tankies.
It's the thirstiest time of the year. I have just one query.
Want a Sprite cranberry?
The answer is clear. It's the thirstiest time of the year. Sprite, let's go.
Let's go. What's up? Yo, what's up, Kenneth? What's going on, man? How are you? Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini, I have a hoagie, I got it all through the Wawa Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app?
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the Daytona 24, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR schedule, such as the Daytona 500. We have events from disciplines all across the racing world, from the Indianapolis 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events utilize iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against every driver taking part. And as every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway after a short break after duel number one, where alongside Nate Polite and now joining us in the booth for this second duel, it is going to be league owner and namesake of this channel, Kenneth Bueno. And guys, what an opening duel that was to kick the season 3 off. Kenneth, you were a part of it there. You had a really solid finish at the line. You were locked in already going into the race. You're going to be starting mid-pack, but what was that duel like? We saw you being very aggressive, making some moves, going to the front, from the back in a recovery effort. What was that like being out there on the racetrack trying to fight for every position?
It was wild. I will say, guys, that it was very different from the last time we were super speedway racing in this series, whether it be Talladega or even when we were here at Daytona to kick off the season in season 2. I think it was way more squirrely than I think a lot of drivers anticipated. Very loose in the middle of the pack. The bottom didn't seem to go at all. The top seemed to be the most dominant line, but you also had the equal amount of checkups on either line. I'm not sure whether that was just all of us trying to get organized together and we just couldn't find our rhythm, or whether that is just the way the package is now with these NASCAR trucks. So we saw a lot of that intensity. I felt it behind the wheel. And so you kind of have to be a little bit aggressive. It almost seems like track position matters a lot more now at these super speedways than they did before in the prior package, where you could really make up a ton of spots in a matter of a few seconds and a few turns. So it's really going to be all about aggression here in Duel 2. And best thing about these guys is that they already got the sample size seeing us race earlier on tonight. So I think they may have a better idea of how to attack this one.
And Nate, I ask you now, which duel, if you had a choice, would you rather be a part of? Would you rather be a part of that opening sequence setting the tone, or would you like to have already something to go off of as a strategy to kind of play out your potential race?
I'd like to have the notebook. I'd like to have seen what everyone did in Duel 1, seen how the cars drove, because ideally everyone else was paying attention to that as well. It might be a little more calm, a little more relaxed in this duel, which if I'm starting at the back means that I can be the aggressor and work my way through, or if I'm starting at the front means I got a lot less work to do to keep those guys behind me. Like I said it before we went to break, and I'll say it again. Typically, when it comes to duel racing, one is chaotic and one is calm. It was a lot of chaos last time around. I don't want to jinx it, but if our duel one was calm, I don't know if I want to see what chaos looks like.
That was a great point you made there at the end of duel number one. If that's calm, I don't know what chaos could look like, or vice versa. So we'll just have to see. They're currently qualifying out there right now, and this is important, guys, because part of the format is the best lap times overall between both sessions are going to fill out the rest of our roster after the 6 that qualify in. There's certain drivers that you can already eliminate from that first duel based on the qualifying effort, and other drivers from this duel that they'll know just based on where they're starting, their lap time is not going to be good enough to advance to the next session. So with that in mind, I'll ask you this, Kenneth. Who do you think that favors in a situation where they'll know the lap time just isn't good enough and you got to go out there and make it happen?
Well, honestly, I think it favors a lot of the drivers in this duel, specifically the talent that we have in here. I know that obviously defending series champion Steven Maggio is supposed to be here as he's trying to deal with some internet connection issues. But honestly, it's a little interesting with this one because I think you already see what kind of lap times the drivers put in qualifying for duel number one. And obviously you have the fresh racetrack, so it helps out a little more. But you do kind of understand what the facets of the qualifying in duel one look like. So you could try and take that plus some if you feel like you have a better truck and a better way of qualifying here at the super speedways. So I think I would probably prefer to be in this group a little bit just to know what qualifying is like and feel that all out, because again, track position matters a lot more than I think everybody thought going into duel one. Now that duel two had the chance to watch us race earlier tonight, they'll have a better idea of how they have to execute qualifying a little more than maybe some of the drivers in duel one did.
Well, the good news for drivers like Dominic Barbagallo and Justin Johnson is that they raced their way in to that first duel for the most part, and they were able to grab those spots, even though they had great qualifying efforts in this case of Justin Johnson. Dominic Barbagallo, who got the pole for duel one, his fastest lap time ended up being the fastest lap time between both qualifying sessions. So he's one of those drivers that you can count in on the main show. Kaloa Hankins, he's also on that, right on the cusp of just trying to get in. He qualified third in that first duel with a 51.581. And as the grid was set in here, it just went away from my screen there, but it looks like it's going to be between Kaloa Hankins and possibly a Randall Payne position out on the racetrack. We know that it's at least 4 that are going to be getting qualifying spots pending any changes. We'll keep getting updates from our admin team. So we'll get confirmation as to who's in and who's out when it's all said and done, but we'll bring to you the official field after the end of the night. It is constantly going to be a moving target, and that'll have us working, it'll have the admin team working, but most importantly, the drivers are going to be working every single lap. You have no guarantees. You have to get out on the racetrack and ensure that you do your part in getting out there, and Matthew Opplinger most certainly did his part in doing everything he can to try and get himself into a spot no matter what, and so much so that he's going to start from the top spot with a 51.572, one of the faster lap times we've seen in this qualifying session. He rolls off from the top spot in duel number 2. Alongside him, Randall Payne, who we saw in numerous events last season, he rolls off second in his number 20. Michael Walls, runner-up in season number 1, third place finisher in the standings last time out, rolls off third, looking to try and get back to winning ways in this series. Alongside Mikey Neal, race winner from Charlotte in season number 1, rolls off from fourth. Sartaj Ma, name we haven't seen here in the KBueno Racing Network in a while, but he has made himself known in the past. He's looking to redo that here in 2026 with his series debut with a top 5 qualifying effort with Nicholas Bingham alongside him in the 6th spot. Gabe Cazzola, race winner here in the past at Talladega Superspeedway. He rolls off 7th with Robbie Troop, who made his name known last season. He rolls off in 8th. Connor Brannon in the number 24 rolls off in 9th, with Kyle Benson, veteran driver of this channel, will be rolling off in the top 10 name.
Jonathan Parker in row 6 alongside Cody Webster. Jonathan Parker making his return to iRacing. Trevor Haley and Ryan Bogey alongside one another in row 7. Row 8, Sean Cassane and Craig Lautenslager. Row 9, Ethan Fonseca Moreno driving the 74 truck. Brandon Showers starts alongside, and then rounding out the top 20, Jake Gumar. He had a not so highlight reel moment at Daytona last season alongside Christopher Bishop.
Back in row number 11, you'll find Daniel Moore on the inside in 21st. Jacob Locklear in the number 84 is on the outside in 22nd. Hunter Davis and Jason Hastings, the 27 and the 49, lock up the inside and outside of row 12, with Anthony Foss and Jesse Moody, the Moo Moo Motorsports number 98, on the outside in 26th place. And then we start with the drivers that did not take a time in qualifying. That includes the defending series champion and a brand new number, the number 1 for Stephen Maggio. He is 27th. Jared Wilson, technically 28th. And Hunter McDivitt, the 55, is considered the last driver registered on the racetrack, 29 to the green.
Yeah, you mentioned, you saw it right there, Jared Wilson. He was very much in that first duel, so he won't actually be out there on the racetrack for this second duel. He's already locked himself in, so job done for the 3-car here tonight.
Lap.
It doesn't hurt. I'm sure all the track time is very useful, especially with the amount of changes that these trucks and these super speedways have gone through over the past few months. Kenneth, I know you've got some up close and personal experience with all these changes as they've been going out to the service. Just makes you wonder, just in 2 months, how quickly things can change.
Yeah, things do change a lot, and I think that's one of the more fascinating things about sim racing, and it almost picks up from something that may be missing from real life driving, where you have constant changes in packages in real life to horsepower and downforce outputs, especially in the stock car world. But in iRacing, the proper change of that, other than the packages that change to reflect real life, is the aero. Obviously, iRacing's trying their hardest to make these stock cars, trucks, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars, next-gen cars as realistic as possible. So you always have to be at the mercy of any given patch or season build update, because you don't know how things will overall change because of how iRacing is working hard to make these cars as realistic to reflect real life. So I think it happened a lot with the Coke Series drivers last year when the next-gen car fundamentally changed and everyone kind of had to relearn how to drive the car. And it's almost the same with these trucks. I think Duel 1 for me felt like a really big whiplash moment versus how the super speedways felt in times before. I felt a lot more comfortable driving that versus how sketchy the trucks are in the little bit of practice and racing time we had here tonight. So I'm expecting Duel 2 to be right in the thick of things. Drivers are just feeling that anticipation a little bit, I think.
And very much so, that anticipation, that eagerness to try and learn as they go throughout this race is going to kick in for these sets of drivers in this second duel. They saw everything that happened out there. They've made their notebooks. They've taken everything they can, and now they're going to try to apply it here in this second duel to get things going and see what they've learned to try and win themselves yet another It's Matthew Opplinger on the front row with Randall Payne that's going to lead us to the green flag, and we're underway in duel number 2. And a very different start already compared to that initial duel where they were pretty even for the front spot. All the way to turn number 3, the inside has the early advantage as they work their way down the super stretch for the first time. And you can see Matthew Opplinger still has the nose out in front, though Randall Payne trying to do his best to get back level with Michael Walls. But this time the inside lane prevails to turn 3.
And then nice and worked up together on Opplinger and Walls there on the bottom of the racetrack. Now they're going to slide up right in front of Randy Payne. This is what we saw in Duel 1. Mikey Neal's going to get up on the outside of Payne, though. Into the bottom goes the 20. He does not want to fall into that sucker hole in the middle.
And Randall Payne trying to lead that bottom now with help from the Sartaj Mon machine, with Michael Walls leading on the outside. And you see right there, third on the outside, that's that's Mikey Neal running a tribute scheme to Kyle Busch, which the last time we were on a KBueno Racing Network show prior to tonight, it was just before we got that unfortunate news on May 21st that we had lost the NASCAR legend due to pneumonia. And here's Mikey Neal, who's running the 8 paint scheme with the font, the stylized 8 of RCR, honoring Kyle Busch, which we'll see a lot of tributes to Kyle Busch throughout this season across different leagues like we have seen in the KBueno Racing Network and Greater iRacing. This season will be all about honoring him, and Las Vegas will be the stylized race for throwbacks dedicated purely to him. Mikey Neal doing his part in representing that 8 here tonight. Randall Payne, in the meantime, with help from Gabe Cazzola, has gotten out in front as the lead has really been aggressive in changing hands. We've seen the inside, the outside. How about 3 wide? Sartaj Mon jumps up outside of Gabe Cazzola. He'll take the top spot.
You see a lot more evenness between the bottom and the top side. Very stark contrast to what I felt behind the wheel and what immediately was prevalent in the first few laps of duel number 1. And that's a lot of because half the battle is not only having enough patrons with you on any given lane around Daytona and these super speedways, you also have to have organization. You need to have a cohesive line, drivers that understand the assignment, give enough space to each other, don't allow for the weaving and bobbing that we saw in duel number 1 to allow for further checkups, which really helped the outside line blossom. And so 3 lines are fully developed. Look at Michael Walls spearing through the middle, gave Cazzola the help, and it was a car right in front. Matthew Opplinger tried to send the block, but Micah said, no way, Jose, try to go through the middle. We're still going for the lead to turn 3.
Michael Walls continuing his aggressive ways. That's the name he's made for himself in this series. He's going to be aggressive, and he's going to do everything he can to be successful doing it. Second all-time in wins in this series, and he's still chasing that first championship in this series. Had a chance to win this Daytona race at the end of last season, and now he's trying to kick things off with a dual win to give himself a chance at the big prize once again. There's Robbie Troop in the number 96 machine. He had a successful season number 2, guys, and he showed a lot of speed. It's going to be a matter of time before we see this 96 go to victory lane.
Yeah, there were a few races last year where he really had a chance. I remember Eldora, he was running so well, one of the fastest trucks on the racetrack. And he jumps up to the outside right here. He was involved in an incident that night, but he's been talking a lot about how he's looking forward to, especially the dirt races. He's a dirt racer in the real world. He's looking like a seasoned veteran on the super speedway, slicing to the bottom of Opplinger, trying to take the race lead. Here comes Benson to the north end. Oh my goodness.
And he clears for the top spot, but he can't put the block forever as Opplinger goes to the bottom. Benson up top as there's contact around. They're going further back. A big crash in the tri-oval.
Huge crash.
The big one strikes just past the pit road entry. More than a dozen cars involved, and this is not something we saw in that first duel. The pure outright big one, and it strikes here on the end of lap number 5, Kenneth.
Yeah, it's a hard hit for many drivers, and it started at the front of this field. Sartaj Mon, Jake Kumar got involved in it. We'll take a look at the replay and how that all originated at the front of this field. But it's kind of right. In duel 1, you didn't really see that frenetic 3-wide energy so early on. You usually saw the action for crashing happening at the very back of the field, so you limited the amount of trucks that could be in it. But when you're 3 abreast for multiple rows down the line and you've got a car in the mid-pack that goes around, well, good luck trying to get out of it. There's that bright yellow number 48, the Lowe's Chevrolet Silverado in the middle. You'll see the contact with Jake Gumar, that white truck on the outside, and it's just trying to side draft. These aerodynamic models on the trucks allow for side draft to be more overpowered than they used to be. So you want to cling to the rear quarter panels of the trucks around you just to bring them back a little bit, kill off a couple miles an hour down the straightaways, especially when you're on that outside. You feel like you have a good enough run. And there wasn't that much help with Jake Gumar from behind with Anthony Foss in the 69. So it just seemed like perfect recipe for disaster as the side draft just got a little wrong there.
Yeah, that's a new factor, is you're just trying to be so close to play the aerodynamic advantages to go your way, but when it goes wrong, it can go bad horrifically. Here's the onboard look from Connor Brannon, who's trying to race his way in. There's the contact, there's the hit. And multiple trucks piling in after, big hits, even here in the tri-oval. But I will say, it doesn't appear, apart from maybe 2 or 3 trucks, that there's major damage really on anybody. I think everybody generally from this incident can recover. But just so many cars, and again, an early caution that we just didn't see in that first duel. And this is going to change how, I would think, this could change how drivers approach this attack over the next couple of laps, Nate.
I think so, but they've been this aggressive already. And those drivers that we have at the front, they're thinking, hey, we weren't the ones that crashed. We can do it without crashes. We go on board with Trevor Haley, he hit everybody but the kitchen sink as he was getting through this crash. That's the nature of these big ones here at Daytona. There's cars going everywhere. There's no right way to go when they happen right in front of you, fall in your lap like that. But these drivers out front, I think they're gonna keep being aggressive because they proved that, that top 5, top 6 trucks, they proved that they can make it, 3 wide and not create a crash. So that was the guys behind us. We're good at it. We can do it.
Yeah, I think
Nate, I will say that I like to try to avoid the feelings, but I felt invincible when I was behind the wheel. I felt like I could try and be the one driver to make a difference. I think even if you're involved in a crash, if you've got enough damage to where you can repair it under this yellow flag, you're going to be right back at it. You know how important track position is. And as a driver, you almost always feel like you can make the difference, especially at these tracks that are more so the equalizer than anything else, and all the tracks we'll see on the calendar this year. So I felt it. I'm sure everyone at the front feels it. I'm sure the drivers that were even in the heart of that crash feel like even after that, they can get back in the game.
I know Juan Escamilla felt it, that's for sure, Kenneth.
Yeah. Yeah, I dealt him a pretty nasty block in the first few laps. I want to apologize for that. I did make a couple questionable moves. But again, that's how you feel when you feel a good run coming. You've got the draft in hand. You feel like you can just swing each and every lane and make it work. I think I got a little bit eager in that moment. I hope Juan is not mad at me, but we'll see.
But that's a great point you bring up, Kenneth, because truthfully, that's where we are with this super speedway racing. That's what you have to do to keep positions or make positions. You have to be in the right lane at the right time. And you just never know when the right run is going to come, so you just have to be ready for it. As we're getting ready for the choose, multiple trucks there in the mid-pack going to the outside lane, and plenty of them further back taking that inside lane and making up the track position. So I'll ask you this, Kenneth, since you were out there on the racetrack for that first duel, how was it like to experience the choose for the first time this season?
It was interesting. I think that once Duel 1 got underway and we got a couple of those green runs in, a lot of drivers really wanted to be at the top lane, and for good reason, because it was just so dominant there. But I like the options. I think that in recent NASCAR rules, the drivers have talked about how they've enjoyed kind of the controlling of your destiny in each row, deciding the inside or the outside, and you can gain a couple spots by being in the lane that nobody wants to choose, but then you run the risk of being in the lane that nobody wants to be in. So then there's that risk as well. But I like the option, the openness that you can have as a driver to pick where you really want to place yourself. And I think especially here versus a lot more other tracks we'll see in this year, you want to pin yourself in the right place, because when it comes to 2 laps to go and you've got overtime or you've got the final 2 laps, if we end up in scheduled distance for Duel 2, you want to understand that you pick the right lane, you pick the right people to work with, and that really does change the power and the control that the driver has behind the wheel for the restarts.
It plays a big role, no doubt about that, Kenneth, and we're going to see how that continues to play a role throughout the continuous yellow flags we could see throughout the night and the extra chooses that we'll see these drivers being forced to do. I do have a little bit of an update here, Nate. Remember that flip we saw out of Riley Hayes, according? Only 12 seconds of optionals out of that.
Oh. Yeah, I think a lot of these guys might be okay on damage. After a flip like that, only 12 seconds, I think we're all right. I think these guys might be feeling a little more invincible after that.
They say you think you've seen it all, and then you see something like this. First time I've ever seen a car not only flip and drive away, but only have 12 seconds of damage. I've hit the wall and gotten more damage than a flip like that out of Riley Hayes. So really fun that we got shared that information as we're now back under the green flag. Great launch from Robbie Troop on the outside. He'll tuck down to the bottom, which has more cars in it right now. You see Matthew Opplinger, Michael Walls, Mikey Neal, they've got single files. Benson has been left up top with Brandon Shower. Hunter Davis and the number 27 creeps to the bottom as they zig and zagging their way down the back straightaway. Those three cars have now drifted up top, leading Opplinger in charge of that inside lane with that 27 machine. Further back, Gabe Cazzola's number 95. He's been victorious on super speedways before. Look out for that JBL 95 to make some moves here in the second half of the duel. And you see it right here, very much like what we saw in that first duel, Nate. The outside lane is definitely looking like the stronger lane, at least right now. But that inside lane, you get the right enough trucks, you get the right enough momentum, and they can mount a charge, which is exactly what Opplinger's trying to do.
Yeah, we've seen it's all about the momentum. It's all about getting tight on that, right up to the truck in front of you, right on the tailgate. You see how close the 7 is to the 96. It's pushing him away from the 8, but the 8's going to close in, and the 38's going to get to his bumper as well. You know, we talked for some time about a bubble at super speedways. That still kind of exists, but in these trucks, you got to get right to the bumper, and you got to shove. That's the best way to go forward. Now we're seeing it. The 27 hooked up to the back of the 19, just trying to push forward, but that inside is so tough.
And you see a little bit of middle action a little bit further back. That's led by Brandon Showers, as number 5 truck, renumbered from the 24 last season. He's got help up through the middle. That's the 74 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who has changed numbers plentiful of times throughout this offseason, but 74 is the number that he has landed on. And this is a driver that we see as, one of them sideways a little bit further back. That's one of those moo trucks. There's a crash further back. That's the 24 of Connor Brandon going spinning with Jake Gumar. No caution.
I can't imagine it's going to stay that way. That 24 is stopped perpendicular to the racing line, and I guess I stand corrected. I can't believe iRacing didn't throw a caution for that, because he was stopped in the middle of the backstretch for a solid 5 or 10 seconds. Oppliger's made it all the way to the front of the field and is pushed away as the inside completely falls to pieces. Hunter Davis dropping like an anchor all the way through the field. He's lost about 5 rows already.
And I think the main reason we probably didn't see a yellow flag is when that crash happened for that 24, there was 0 cars behind him on the racetrack. I think iRacing detects that and doesn't see fit to throw a yellow. Look at the block by Cazzola on Walls into the outside wall. And there they go.
Behind him, it's a big crash.
Big crash, turn number
Jonathan
3.
Parker in it.
Multiple trucks involved. As there's Steven Maggio, defending champion of the series, in it as well. And just as we were catching back up with the pack, trouble ensues again, this time on a smaller scale. And we'll try to get a look and see exactly how this yellow flag came to be. Jonathan Parker was one of those drivers that was trying to race their way into the main event for next week. And he's at the center of these problems. Talk us through this one, Kenneth.
Yeah, it was just a block at the front of the field that really just created the domino effect. Look at how everybody checks up just because Micah got into the wall. And I was hearing the radio over that incident. Christopher Bishop, the bright green truck that got into the back end of Steven Maggio, said, "I'm sorry about that. I really couldn't see the incident. I tried to lift off," and Maggio literally just responded, "Hey, there was nothing you could do to see the front end of that incident. It was just so far up the road." And again, we talk about these trucks. They have huge spoilers on the back end of their trucks, so you cannot really see. It's a wider view from this angle from Steven Maggio, but you can't even see the incident from here. It stacks up, you see a plume of smoke, but then it's just one stack up after another, and by the time you're already on the brakes to get out of it, either a truck is behind you getting into the rear bumper of your truck, or you're just already hitting the back bumper of the truck in front of you. So I dealt with that in one of the first incidents in duel number 1, and I can tell you, behind the wheel, it is almost impossible when you're tucked up behind the truck in a large pack like this, 3 wide, to see any developing situation at the front, let alone an incident like that.
Yeah, like you said, this camera essentially gives you a slightly better angle, and even then so, just tough to really see that far ahead with that many trucks in front of you. It's like driving down Palmetto 826. I know up there for you it's a little bit different now, but 826 here in peak hours, oh, it's just terrible to drive through. You can't see a thing for I don't know how far ahead, and then you get there and at the end of the traffic, and there's no accident or anything most of the time. That's just the end of it, and it takes that long for you to actually see anything. And it's the same deal here in a little bit more extreme case, a lot tighter, a lot higher speeds, and it results in chaos. Multiple trucks have made their way down pit road once again to fix damage, but it doesn't appear as though there's significant damage to a lot of these trucks. Possibly a few seconds, almost up to a minute perhaps, of some optional repairs, and they'll be good to go and back underway. And Nate, how about that block we saw from Gabe Cazzola that started that whole incident? I was watching that happening, and I saw that was an aggressive block. I think it goes to show just how important that outside lane is. Cazzola was not willing to give Walls that lane.
Yeah, block is I think that's a generous term for what that was. That was more of a chop than anything I thought. I mean, Micah was there. You saw the smoke from the 7 getting into the wall, and I don't think Micah is going to take too kindly to that. They're aligned. They're close to teammates, the T1A Goat Inc. cohort that I talk about so frequently, but he may not be too keen on helping that 95 in the future.
I mean, not surprised, though, guys, to see Gabe Cazzola being aggressive, especially these super speedways. I mean, he has the win at Talladega Super Speedway from Season 1, and, I mean, look at his resume, 21st, 16th, and 15th in the other 3 races, but that does not properly reflect the kind of driver that Cazzola is on these types of tracks. He is willing to leave it all out there on the line. He's willing to make the daring moves. He's a driver that some like to be away from just because they can't predict where he's going to go, and some like to follow him because they know he's going to be that spearheading driver to make a move at the front. So I'm not sure if it was intentional, obviously, to block it that hard on Michael Walls. They probably thought they had a lot more time and space to maneuver around, but yeah, guys, I'm not surprised that the 95 is involved in some of those hefty moves to stay up front.
And here's the choose. First 4 trucks go to the outside lane. 5th place Michael Walls, the first one to go to the bottom. That is a ton of trucks choosing the outside over the inside, and it's going to give a lot of new drivers some track position for this restart. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, just how much track position are you willing to give up to get up to the front row. Michael Walls was behind Brandon Showers, and look how far separated they are for this restart.
Oh, man.
And look behind Walls there, Nate, Mikey Neal in the 8 machine, Hunter Davis in the number 27, Ethan Fonseca Moreno. I was getting ready to talk about his new number. Well, I would say his about 10th new number throughout this off season before settling on 74 today, right, Kenneth?
Yeah, told me earlier on today that he was going to be changing to the 74. There was already a discussion, him and Jaden Porter, what number they wanted. Porter took 77, worked out for him, ended up winning duel number 1. But yeah, hopefully the 74 is what we see out of Moreno for the entire season. And if he asks, I don't think we're going to let him change it. But I will say that he did make some good moves, guys, in the beginning laps of that duel. Made the middle work with Brandon Showers. I was not sure how that middle was going to look like, especially understanding how difficult it was to drive in duel number 1 and not hit the other trucks around you. So a good run by them. And I'm a little bit anticipated to see what Ethan does on this run now that he's on the bottom, which has struggled a little bit over the night.
And Ethan's always one of those aggressive drivers on super speedways as well. He's gotten a victory at Talladega in 4 wide with the next gen cars. He runs a lot of those highline races along with his new Dark Horse teammates, and they run a lot of super speedway races together, and oftentimes one of them wins One of those drivers that often finds victory lane is in this race, and he's currently running in the 10th spot. So we'll see if those two work together, nose to tail on this restart, to try and work their way towards the front. Great launch there by Robbie Troop to once again clear out in front. He'll move to the bottom. Nicholas Bingham gets strung out in the 3rd spot side by side with Mikey Neal. And now it's all about where and how can the runs get formed up. And we'll see how quickly it takes for the outside lane to form up and get a huge run here. But look how far ahead those top two are, Nate. I don't know if that's a good thing.
It's not usually a good thing, Fran. With it being side by side, it might be okay. Bingham and Cazzola are getting out there. I think that's also going to be a good thing for those leaders. This is part of that cohort as we get one truck going down trying to take the chicane. I think that's the 45.
Might have been Cody Webster's machine that was all the way down on the apron, but he recovers nicely as the front of the field has rejoined the top two rather seamlessly, really, as Nicholas Bingham settles into 3rd ahead of Gabe Cazzola. That's Brandon Showers once again leading the outside charge. He's got help from the 55 of Hunter McDivitt. A pair of Hunters are battling for spots inside this top 5. Cazzola now jumps up top.
You're going to see this outside ramp up off of turn number 2. Again, this is 31 degrees of banking, guys, in each corner here at Daytona International Speedway, and you get a huge run when you have the right pushers with you on this Daytona super stretch. You can see just how much the gain is from Gabe Cazzola. He can see Nick Bingham's quarter panel. He can try to cling on as they come to turn 3. It's going to hurt them a little bit with the shorter entry on the inside of the racetrack to the double yellow line, but they're going to have a big run, especially now that Cazzola is going to have this truck in front of Bingham to push off of turn number 4. They get alongside Michael Walls. Robbie Troop sees a good IQ move by Robbie Troop. Saw the line develop, didn't wait for it to get too overwhelming, and made the move to stay up front.
Great move there to make the block. Michael Walls has the inside, but I think Troop is happy with using this outside lane, seeing how well it's done. But he's going to have to defend right. If not, Walls can clear him here off of turn 2. He will. He has the choice to move up. Will the 7 truck move up to the outside lane for the time being? The answer is no. He'll stick with Mikey Neal on the inside, and Michael Walls able to get back to the top spot, a position we see this 7 truck so often in. He's got the help from Neal, who's also put himself in plenty of chances to win races, as we're now into the second half of this duel. And unlike that first duel, Kenneth, that we saw a lot of 3 wide, we've seen a lot more proper side-by-side action, 2 rows in this one. What was one of the main things you noticed in the duel, the difference between going 2 and 3 wide, what it did to your truck?
Well, it obviously made it feel, oh, there's a spinner there. Randall Payne is around. Christopher Bishop, Jacob Locklear's in it, and a late tag on the inside of the racetrack. I was just about to expand on that, Francisco, but I saw the trucks go wide, and I saw them bobbling around as soon as they were starting to go 3 wide. So miscommunication there, and Randall Payne, qualified highly in the session earlier on tonight, is now a little bit torn up.
He's given himself a good chance to make it in on that qualifying time, but we'll see how the duel continues to play out for his chances of racing his way in on finishing position. But for now, the effort's going to be halted with this damage. And that's the 2nd or 3rd time tonight we go to have an exchange, and it gets broken up by a yellow flag. So let's see exactly what led to this particular instance of the yellow flag. There's the 20, the Juicy Juice Wawa machine, as there's another stack up here behind. Looks like the 55, the 84 gets into the back of the 20. Oh, and they just kind of sandwich with Bishop together, and that's what sends them around. Ryan Bogey getting a piece of it there late.
I think we might be seeing a little bit longer wait time than 12 seconds on pit road for this one. A lot of guys have some heavy hits and multiple hits in this one. Going more with Bishop. One of those guys that got a lot of damage. See them all just stacking up, and this is not a whole lot anybody can do other than try to get out of the throttle. And good news for Bishop, he's locked in. So is the 20 of Payne. Because the rest of those guys, Locklear, namely, not locked in, gonna be a long way up.
Gonna be a long way for some of those drivers that are looking to automatically clinch a spot into this race based on finishing position. You look at the running order, highest one of those drivers right now is this 27 of Hunter Davis, looking to make his first proper points paying start in this series. He runs currently in the 3rd spot. Nicholas Bingham is the one behind him. Bingham also trying to lock himself into this duel, or into the main event. You look further back through this running order, and most of the top 10, you have to go all the way back to Sean Kissane in the number 33 as one of those other drivers that are aiming to also drive their way in. So a complete contrast to what we saw in Duel 1, Nate, where we saw plenty of drivers in the top 10 vying for those 6 high open positions. Only 3 currently sit in this top 10 as it stands. Or actually, you can toss in 4 because Mikey Neal is actually one of those drivers not in. So he's actually racing for a spot in as well, as he sits 2nd.
It takes a lot of the pressure off of some of these guys, knowing that they don't have to get way up into the field. The top 10 should be able to bring it home. We saw in Duel 1 that it was just about every one of the top 6 was going to be up there fighting for a spot. I mean, there were times where it was the top 6 in Duel 1.
So we'll see how this continues to fluctuate as the night goes on. It's constantly going to be a moving target, and depending who gets in, the qualifying times will then matter from there forwards. So that's why it's going to matter all the way down to the checkered flag of this race. We'll get you a rough idea once the checkered flag waves, once we get the order from our admin team. We'll get you a rough idea as to what we're looking at for next week, but by the time next week comes around, we'll have the proper standings, the proper order, and our entire starting lineup for the main event. A lot of math to be worked out, to say the least, but the biggest thing to worry about is that it will all be correct and accurate once we get there. There you see the choose, and once again, a lot of drivers going with that outside lane once again. And this is not something we normally see with the trucks, Kenneth. Normally we see this with the O'Reilly car, we see this with the Cup car. The outside lane is the way to go. Very seldom is the outside ever this successful with the trucks, and yet this time around it seems to be the case. What do you think is the big difference?
Well, the difference is just properly the aero package, and the exact same phenomenon happened in Duel 1. Everyone tried both lanes, and then they found out what worked the best, and then just progressively later in the race, everyone started moving up, migrating to the high side when this choose cone line came around on 1 to green. It's just the way these trucks drive now. Aerodynamics are not as kind here at Daytona to those on the bottom. Even when you have a lot of organization and cohesion with you and the right drivers that you feel are confident in making a move up to the front, the outside is just so overwhelmingly good that over the race, everyone wants to pack up on the high side. They feel that's the best chance, even at the very back, to gain a position or two, even if a quick yellow comes out in front of them. That's what I felt myself doing, and then I almost kind of became the contrarian in the back end of the race because nobody was going to the bottom. It almost felt like a desert land at the inside because everyone felt so little faith in what the bottom line did. And sometimes that can be the advantage because you get too many trucks up there and you're going to get the big stack-up effect like we've already seen multiple times in this race. So I'm anticipating with the number of trucks we have up there, we could very well see the same. And then the drivers think maybe the inside is the right lane just because not as many decide it's their choosing lane.
It'll be 8 laps to go when we take the green flag here with the pace car exiting pit road. Michael Walls and Hunter Davis lead us down to the green flag, and oh, there you see some stack ups. Trucks going down to the apron further back, and they keep it going. That's Steven Maggio through the grass as he rejoins.
He's gonna have to slow up quite a bit there. Make sure he didn't go ahead and gain anything.
That was a really awkward restart, but you can see the stack ups. That goes from the front of the field as they're trying to get things in order. Oh, the 27 gets turned from the front of the field.
Heartbreak for the 27.
And no caution.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
And Michael Walls is out there with the entire pack strung out as they're going 4 wide further back there.
And Gabe Cazzola has heavy damage. He is right to the outside wall, guys. He's trying to get out of the way for the rest of the field. Boy, that hurt plenty of drivers at the front. A lot of them got damaged, and with no yellow, you can't have any opportunities to come in on pit road. So Cazzola race with 7 laps to go is very much over, but now we can have more even fighting at the front of this field. Look at the 3-truck pack at the head of the top lane. Matthew Opliger in the 19 to the lead.
Yeah, he's got a big help from Robbie Troop here. Sartaj Mon trying to find his way through. And how about Jonathan Parker, who found himself in an earlier incident? He's trying to claim his way up into 4th, and he'll do that with Hunter McDivitt following through a little bit further back. So just as quickly as the whole pack got strung out, and now Troop to the outside of Oplinger.
And up in this group as well, the 93 of Nick Bingham, who was right there in that incident with Gabe Cazzola. He's no worse for wear, and he's right back into this mix as well.
What a move it was by the 96. He's got a little bit of front end damage. Not sure how much that's hurting his performance ever since he ducked out. He's trying to take this top spot. And you can see how that's affecting the outside lane, because that inside is able to power back a lot stronger than it had at any point tonight. And Troop is trying to do the very best he can, and so is Mon. And look at that side drafting effort, just holding that 7-truck back. And now the 19 has to move up in front of the outside. There's the 81 in the middle. They're 3 wide here with Hunter McDivitt now squeezing to the middle.
They've come together in this last lap or so. Oh, there's a spinner right in front of the field. McDivitt gets turned around in turn 3. Rest of the field gets involved. Michael Walls gets a tap. Brandon Showers is in it. The 81 truck of Jonathan Parker got into it. And I was just about to say, guys, we had 60% of the top 10 in the last lap. All rookie drivers. Oh, now the field is blown up another time.
And this is
unfortunate. McDivitt in the outside wall as well.
And a huge unfortunate timing for the 95 machine, who was one of the stronger trucks, as it came out just as he gets lapped on pit road. But multiple trucks get a piece of that, and definitely a lot more with significant damage. So let's see if we can get a rundown on how this started. We saw an aggressive move by McDivitt to get down to the middle, trying to make a move to get to the bottom to get into this top 10. And here we go, down the back straightaway. Nate, what do you see here?
Take a look, we're going down into 3, and it's just another situation where they kind of, well, I thought it was they started to stack up, and it's actually the 55 just coming down in front of the 7, trying to get clear of the bottom lane, and did not work out. And that is a huge, huge hit up into the outside wall, and the 14 gets involved again as well.
Yeah, here's the onboard look from Hunter McDivitt. He saw a big run and he took it, and he thought he could go all the way to the bottom with it in front of Walls, but it just wasn't quite clear of the 7 truck, Kenneth.
That was a huge push. Look at the momentum he carried on the super stretch, and you just thought he could just faintly clear the truck on the inside of the racetrack. I mean, again, that's the invincible feeling you get at tracks like these. When you have a run that big, you feel like you can clear anyone on the racetrack, and then you get to the corner and you realize you have no help. So then McDivitt obviously had the field catch up to him. It's a really awkward angle to try and cut down when the bottom line is just starting to get their pushes back together after the initial checkup on the back end of the super stretch. And here's Lounslarger. I mean, when you're in the middle 3 wide, there's just not much you can do. Thankfully, Lounslarger had way more than enough space to hop on the binders and get away from that. Beautiful avoidance from the veteran.
That's how you wish they all were, but great job there by Lounslarger. The driver we found out a few months ago is from New Zealand, raised in Texas, but also raised in New Zealand. And he's found himself up here now running in 13th. And that Wawa machine, I see there, I feel like it takes some inspiration from Talladega Nights. It kind of gives some of that vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. A little bit. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Wawa supporter, so I, of course, approve of the car.
I was just about to say that. I don't think you have any opposition towards this truck right here.
Oh, not at all. I love seeing Wawa cars out there on the racetrack. Don't often see too many Celsius cars. I think if you get a few of those guys that run those every once in a while out there, then it would be different. Like this Los 48, for example, Sartaj Mon. He's a driver we've seen a lot in the KBueno Racing Network in the past. When you think of 2020, even 2021, Haven't really seen his name in the years since, not that often, but he's making his return here. He's trying to make his series debut in the big show next week, and he's running this iconic paint scheme. He's been a longtime Jimmy Johnson fan, much like you, Kenneth. And with the announcement earlier this week that Johnson's running the 48 car for his final Daytona 500 attempt in 2027, Mon here running the 48 in honor of the 7-time Cup Series champion.
Yeah, that's that beautiful 2009 NASCAR Cup Series championship winning Lowe's Chevrolet, might I add. But yeah, I think this is getting me excited even more because of that announcement that Jimmy's going to run the 500 next year in a one-off with the 48. And there's a lot of details that are still working out. I don't know where Alex Bowman's going to be since he's still running the full-time schedule. But, I mean, Sartaj Mon, for those who don't know about him, he was around during the iRacing Bungeon Lawn Care Series, which at the time, early 2020, 2021, was the first big series we had on the KBueno Racing Network when we were just doing broadcasts for our good friends Glenn Bundren and Blaze McKinney. And so Sartaj has been around for a lot of that and knows a good amount of the people that have run this KBRN Truck Series over the last few years, but it's just him, a small representation of the large overhaul in rookies. It's a large rookie class this season, Francisco. I think all of us were a little bit shell-shocked to see the amount of new entries in this series alone. That's why we even had to go to a dual format, because we were going to go for a clash. We felt we had our roster already set, and then a bunch of drivers like Sartaj joined in on the series, and look here, good opportunity for them to qualify their way into the main show next Monday.
I have some memories of Sartaj Mon on the racetrack from all those times, but I think the strangest one had to have happened earlier this year, Kenneth. It was during NIS here for the Daytona 500. We were in a pack that was doing really good. We were leading this race. We were actually running first and second. And the infamous quote that Michael Walls says after every race, behind my computer, a cockroach appears out from the wall and it's working its way towards me. And for those that know me, I have a big fear of those things. And I was trying to call someone, get them to try to get over to my rig, see if they could take care of that as I'm racing. And as it got closer, I started paying less attention out my front, and without realizing it in the trial, I get into Sartaj. He was rightfully upset, and I kind of had to awkwardly and kind of embarrassingly explain, yeah, it was a roach that was working its way towards me and ended our run. So I know I apologize to him for that. I'm not sure how many people ended up finding out about that in the live air, but Michael Walls makes sure to remind me. It is overtime, not overtime, but it is an organic 2-lap to go restart here from the second duel. Matthew Opplinger leads as they remain door to door for the second place spot. As you see, almost contact there with Robbie Troop, as Mon now has to rely on the help of Ethan Fonseca Moreno to get a push. Moreno has help from a teammate and Trevor Haley further back. Oh, there goes the 96 looking to the bottom, Nate.
He's been aggressive all race long. It doesn't matter how much damage he's got on the front end of that Denver Broncos Toyota Tundra. He is trying to fight to the front, but that top side is so strong. They're so much better formed up than the bottom. It's that T1A GOAT cohort on the bottom of the racetrack. Everybody else against them on the top side.
And you see how squarely they're getting in the middle, 3 and 4, but we'll get to the white flag. Our scheduled 30-lap distance is a go. 1 lap remaining, and it's our pole sitter Matthew Opplinger out in front of Sartaj Mon, as there's Ethan Fonseca Moreno and teammate Trevor Haley trying to make things happen. Those dark horse pairs have known how to get things done on the super speedway before, with Nike Neal running 5th. You see the 3 wide a little bit further back. As things are getting really tight for position further back there, this is where the runs will come from. Can anything happen out of the 70? He's going to try to make a move. There he goes. He's to the inside. Haley will follow him. Neal follows him. They'll try to get the aerodynamic side draft, and there goes Opplinger to make the block, but that splits them up. What can Moreno do with Haley now behind him for that position? He knows he's going to have help. There's the block. There's the move to the inside. Everybody's all split up, but they're side by side. Off of turn number 4, and at the start-finish line, it's going to be Opplinger by a nose.
A finish.
2 photo finishes in our duels here tonight, and Matthew Opplinger by 11 thousandths of a second takes it over Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Unbelievable stuff there, Kenneth.
A great finish. I mean, that's back-to-back duels where the race for the win is decided within, what, 21 thousandths of a second. That was insanely close, but a great block by Opliger right at the entry of turn 3. He saw the run on the bottom, and that is the right move to make. A lot of drivers make that move way too late, but the 19 saw it develop behind him, and great mentality to just bump right in front, let the field decide what they were going to do, and scatter around at the end. What a job for Obliger to win duel number 2.
A great job by Oplinger. He'll work.
Man block.
What a job for him too, Nate, because he grabbed the fastest qualifying time, but he also won his race. So that's a position that could go to somebody else now.
So we've seen a lot of the fastest qualifiers make it through into the duel, into the big show, but just by racing their way in. So turns out you didn't have to qualify all that great if you wanted to be one of those top 4 that advanced.
Yeah, apparently. Finding out about that right now, but we'll get all that sorted out here in a moment as Matthew Oplinger celebrates on the front stretch in duel number 2, celebrating a chance to race for the main one in about a week's time. Let's go through that final lap and kind of unpack everything we saw, because there was a lot. It was Oplinger and Mon that was leading us to it. Kenneth, take us through it.
Well, you see here, Opliger, that bright purple truck on the outside. It's a great run from the outside. And I was just about to say, Robbie Troop, all those drivers on the bottom, you feel helpless. You just can't sense any semblance of a run. So you see them trying to cling to the outside, try and side draft any bit of what's left out there. And then you'll see this run down the super stretch. The third place truck, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, sees the run. He's got his Dark Horse teammate behind him, so obviously it's a no-brainer to go to the inside. But look at what Opliger does. He sees it, shuts them down in turn 3. 9 times out of 10, that's a spinning truck in front of the field in the back half of the super speedway. But he does a nice job settling in front, keeps the block intact, and then by this point the field is so separated, there's not enough time nor momentum to the line for Moreno to get a nose out in front. It is still a razor-thin margin, 11 1/1000ths of a second by a nose. Opliger gets through, but it was that decision in turn 3 that got him to have that nose in front.
If you took these results individually tonight, you would have 2 of the top 5 closest finishes in series history with the 2 races here tonight, even put together the combined margin of victory. So it came down all the way to the wire to determine a winner. And in duel number 2, it will be Matthew Oplinger taking the glory and taking the checkered flag. Let's take a look at our results here from duel number 2, as it is the number 19 that takes the top spot over to claim the front row in the start of the race next week. Ethan Fonseca Moreno just losing out by a few inches. It really wasn't a whole lot in it for the number 74 machine, as he will finish in second. Mikey Neal claims his way into the race with a podium finish here from Daytona. Trevor Haley finishes in 4th. Kyle Benson in 5th. Robbie Troop finishes 6th. Startaj Mann also gets in. He's in 7th. Brandon Showers gets away in the 8th spot. Cody Webster advances along in 9th. And Jason Hastings as well, as he rounds out our top 10.
On the top 10, Jonathan Parker comes home in 11th. Craig Lautenslager 12th. Michael Walls and Steven Maggio right with one another, just like they were in the points all last season. Jake Gumar 15th. Hunter Davis 16th. Sean Cassane in 17th. Daniel Moore, Christopher Bishop, and Randall Payne round out the top 20.
And then everyone 21st on back. A lot of them involved in incidents. Connor Brannon had spun down the back straightaway with no yellow. Jesse Moody also back there. Anthony Foss, Nick Bingham, who was at once running for the lead. Hunter McDivitt, we saw him get turned around in the entry of 3 to bring out one of the biggest crashes of the night. Gabe Cazzola in a crash that didn't bring out a yellow and had a heavily wounded truck. Jacob Locklear, Ryan Bogey, and Jared Wilson just here for the fun of it to watch in duel number 2. But 28 trucks complete, 12 laps down, the last truck in Ryan Bogey.
And Matthew now joins us in the victory lane as we talk to our Duel 2 winner. And Matthew, what a job it was for you throughout the race. We saw you in relative control of this race with that outside lane, knowing when to go to the inside and use it to your advantage. It definitely looked like you had one of the best trucks out there. Just talk us through what it was like to navigate your truck where you needed it and how you had to hold off for that win there in the final stretch.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I felt like the top lane was kind of dominant because of how uh big the side draft matters. So I just tried to stay there as much as I could, try to keep the track position. But I think those last few laps, because there was only like 5 or so trucks, it was pretty easy to kind of control the top and control the lead. So yeah, pretty good.
And we saw in Duel 1, it was very intense. We saw a lot of crashes. And then here in this second duel, we saw a little bit of the same, but not to quite the same extent of it. So, as one of those drivers that was in this second duel, were you paying attention and seeing what was going on in that first duel to prepare for this second one?
I had it on in the background. I saw there was a few different uh cautions, but I wasn't really paying attention to it much.
And before we let you go from this victory here at the Daytona International Speedway, which guarantees you the front row spot for next week, anybody you want to give a shout out to for this whole 19 truck team?
I guess Jamie Wright, I joined and he kind of helped me out with all the team stuff, and I guess I'm on his team now. So shout out to the team owner, team boss.
Appreciate the time you take with us, Matthew. Congratulations on winning duel number 2 and guaranteeing your spot on the front row for next week's race. We hope to see you out there at the front of the field.
Yep, thank you.
That's Matthew Opplinger, winner of duel number 2 here from the Daytona International Speedway, guys. He did a great job all night. Proved to be one of the fastest trucks. He could be one to watch when we get into the main event next week. We do have a few other drivers to talk to in this race and in this finishing results. One of those drivers that was the last one to properly race their way in prior to going to the time trials. We don't actually have them available, but we do have Mikey Neal who raced their way in to the main event next week. He'll join us in the booth. He's caught up with Nate Polite.
Mikey, congratulations first and foremost on getting through to the main event. And you were up there up front for a lot of this race. Tell me what it was like with this new kind of aero package, if you will, for these trucks.
Yeah, no, the truck actually felt pretty good tonight. I don't really know, but when you're one-on-one pushing with them, they don't really push too well. But whenever you're able to get into a pack, I was really able to push, and this is one of the better races for me, pushing wise. I usually just have like a really hard time, hitting the sweet spot on the bumpers, and for some reason tonight I was all over it. I really felt like I was able to push Micah when I was behind him. I was able to push Micah really well throughout the race, and so it's something that I've not really been too good at beforehand. So having that tonight, I think, was just ended up being really good because if I was the second car on the inside or the outside, I was able to push. There was even a few three wide opportunities where I was in, and I was the second car, and I was able to push someone out to the lead. And so, just kind of having that tonight, I think, was super helpful. I mean, the trucks stall out when you get out in front, and so it definitely makes them really racy. But being able to stay within the top 10 the entire race was pretty fun because usually I always drop back to the back and let everyone wreck. But being 30 laps tonight, I was just really just trying to maintain that track position, and I don't think I ever fell outside the top 10. That first wreck where we didn't get a caution, I did get nailed in the right front, and my wheel was bouncing all over the place. So I'm going down the front stretch, hopping away. And so that kind of made it a little bit more fun, I guess. But it didn't hinder me too much. Still had all my RPMs, so I just kind of kept the truck straight. And at the end there, I was just following two of the dark horse guys, and I was able to find myself up into the third place position tonight.
And of course, you're driving that number 8 truck stylized with that Kyle Busch number. What does it mean to have that on the door panel and on the roof? And are we going to see that a lot this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think everyone knows, and it's gotten, or it's gotten to everyone for a few months now, and it just sucks, and it's just such a terrible situation, and me, I drive the 8 car in about every league I do, and so you never think that you would ever drive the one person that you hated the most for the longest time. But at the end of the day, he's what made you watch racing. And so for me to be the 8 car and to be able to carry that number fun, it means a lot. And I just I'll have it as much as I can. I love running Kyle Busch schemes. They all look so good, and so you'll see me in a few this season. But being able to channel my inner Rowdy tonight was nice, and maybe that's what was giving me the extra bit of push in there. It was just that, and I just again just really thankful for all the opportunities, thankful for everyone who puts on the show, and thankful to drive the number 8 car, league in and league out, and so you know just doing my best I can, and I know it may not really mean a lot to everyone else, but it means a lot to me to get this car up in front.
And before we let you go, Mikey, is there anybody that you wanted to thank and shout out for this run here tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone at BBR makes this possible. I know the team has kind of gone separate ways this year, but I'm staying, and hopefully I can carry the team name further and further as we go throughout this year. And I just, again, really happy to be here, no matter who's my teammate or not. And Kyle Benson and Michael Walls, they worked really, really well with me tonight. I know Kyle got in the show, and him and I were really pushing each other there. So, congrats to him. And I know I don't have him on the car tonight, but Alex Huffman Designs, he always gives me some pretty sick cars, and so I want to thank him. I want to thank my papa. He's still battling glioblastoma. Hopefully, he gets to go back and watch this. But I love him, friends, family. Again, for Michael Annette, Greg Biffle, Kyle Busch, everyone that we lost this past year. We come out here and race for them every single week. And so I want to thank you all for putting on the show. Thank you for the Shoei race control. It's worked out really, really good, and he deserves huge props, especially with the choose cone. It makes it fun. But and I want to thank you all for broadcasting. You, Nate, Francisco, and maybe Kenneth for this second duel. Not 100% sure, but maybe Kenneth.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank
I'm
y'all.
here.
There we go. Thank y'all for putting on the show as always. I really miss being up in the booth with y'all, but I love going back and watching it. And I know y'all are doing a fantastic job as always. So again, thank you to everyone who's able to run this league. Just happy to be here again on Monday nights, and we're going to put on a show this season.
Well, congratulations on advancing through, Mikey, and thanks for taking the time to join us up here.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
That's Mikey Neal. Finishes third in the duel tonight and advances into the main event next time out in a week's time. We'll move on to another one of our interviews, and it's going to be Kenneth Bueno. He's going to be caught up with Craig Lautenschlager, who just barely misses out on next week's show.
Yeah, joined by the driver of the 13 now, and Craig. Of course, lots of things happened out there on the super speedway in duel number 2. Tell us what you saw in those final few laps and just the overall emotions after the end and all of the trying for the qualification into the main race next week.
Just, there was a lot of wrecking early on. At one point, I went back there and I was kind of damaged, but I just, held on, and then they wrecked in front of me, and then, fixed it up, got back out there, and, finished with top 12, which I don't know, probably won't make me in, but get me in, but whatever, it was a lot of fun. So just trying to shove that crappy truck, as far to the front as I could.
And tell us how the truck felt tonight, because I know from my experience in Duel 1, it definitely felt a little more out of control. The lines were playing out very differently than I think a lot of drivers expected going in. Was that the same phenomenon for you behind the wheel, or did you feel a little more comfortable in the way this truck drove and how it felt in the draft?
I don't know. I felt like maybe a little more underpowered than in the draft, like what I'm used to. I feel like in the past, you get a good run with the truck, but it was kind of a bit of a struggle. But I don't know. I felt like you get a pretty good, shove through the middle sometimes, but then to the direct, so it's like hard to evaluate, just how good it is sometimes.
Well, Craig, I know a tough situation just with everything that occurred here in Duel 1 and now here in Duel number 2, but anyone you want to give a shout out to or thank before we let you go?
Just shout out to you guys for putting the league on, I guess. I mean, I don't show up a whole bunch, but it's well run when I'm out here.
All right, Craig. Well, it's always a great time to talk to you. Obviously, a tough break, missing out on the main race next week, but hopefully to see you in the next few weeks in the next race of the KBRN Truck Series season.
That's Craig Lautenschlager, who finishes the second duel in the 12th place spot, just missing out by one position, by just a few hundredths of a second at the line to the 81 of Jonathan Parker, who Had it not been for his qualifying time, he probably would have been in, but he snuck in by the very, very nitty of his teeth. Jonathan Parker, you did it thanks to your qualifying time. You were the last driver to qualify your way into the main race next week. What a race that was for you. Talk us through with the ups and downs and then finding out, wait, the qualifying time was enough.
There wasn't a lot of ups in this race. So I'm happy the qualifying time did it. I messed it up. I did not get a good run off of the apron, so I'm happy it was enough. But um, I'm more frustrated. I was in literally every single wreck today. I don't know how it. I only had a grand total of 55 seconds of damage from being in every single wreck. I guess good job to everyone for avoiding me when I did spin. Um, but please stop wrecking around me. And it doesn't give me a lot of uh, hope for next week because this is always how my plate races go. I'm always around every single wreck, and I'm just it's very frustrating for me. It doesn't matter really what I do, what moves I make. It's to the point where I'm even afraid to make a move because if I make a move, it's just going to put me in a position where I am going to get wrecked. And I, I'm I tried to just be in the fast line, and I was able to get to the front, and those were like one or two high points in this race, and then the whole field wrecked. So I don't know. Um, I'll just play the slot machine next week, and hopefully the number 81 comes out on top.
A lot can happen over those 100 laps next time out, Jonathan. But this is the first time we see you proper in a series of ours here in this channel. We know you participate a lot in a lot of different iRacing leagues, but it's been a while since you've been out here. So what has the return been like for you?
Not that much, yeah. I mean, it's been basically almost 8 months since I've done any real racing. Which don't be scared. I'm not a weapon on the racetrack. Everybody, don't hear that and be scared. Yeah, I used to do a lot of racing, and I would say I had decent speed. I never am able to race enough, and I'm a reps guy, so that hurt me a little bit, and I won't be able to get as many reps as I would need to be competitive. But I just have a goal to just go here, have some fun, try and run up front, race hard but clean. That's my big thing, and try and get some of the speed back that I know I'm sure I've lost over the past 8 months. But I haven't. To answer your question, I haven't really felt anything yet because just tried to qualify, and ever since I got this new wheel last year, I haven't been able to qualify at the plate track. So I guess that is a positive because my lap time was enough. But I'm pumped to get back into some racing action this season.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch you on the racetrack, and we hope to see if maybe you can escape a few of those wrecks that could find their way around you, since it really is almost every single time that you're on the racetrack, it seems to happen wherever the 81 or 48 happens to be. So we hope that kind of lasts as long as possible without actually happening. Before we let you go here tonight from Daytona, anybody want to give a shout out to the Hell Sixes have for you and the whole 81 team?
Oh, well, Christian Pacheco made my paint scheme. I did the colors, but he made the design. So shout out to him. Shout out to Jared Wilson. Everybody in the T1A call. I wasn't there this week. I'll be there next week. Sorry, guys. I'll be there next week, and shout out to everyone out here watching. I appreciate you guys, and hope we're a source of entertainment for you guys. I know the world is it's a crazy place right now, and I really want to be a source of entertainment for everybody, and I hope that we can provide that for you guys Monday nights.
Well, we appreciate the time you took with us to join us on this evening, Jonathan. We hope to see you out there next week in the big show and continuously moving forward and make a charge in Season 3 of the KBueno Racing Network Truck Series. Congratulations on qualifying for the main Daytona event, and hope to see you out there on the racetrack.
Thank you.
As Jonathan Parker finished 11th in his duel, but he qualifies in for the main show when it's all said and done. And guys, that's our first event of season number 3. Wraps in the books. Jaden Porter and Matthew Oplinger, the two winners of our duels tonight, the front row for the race next week. What is your takeaways that we have seen here tonight? Go starting with you first, Nate.
We saw a lot of chaos. The updates that they made to Super Speedway Racing and the Truck Series on iRacing, it worked. It is a lot of chaos. These trucks are wiggling, they're loose, they're tough to handle, and we're going to have a great show in the big race next weekend.
And how about you, Kenneth?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be chaotic. I'm going to be a part of that. So, from a driver's perspective, I'm a little nervous. I mean, starting in the mid pack, understanding what it felt like in the duels, even though it's a smaller field to a little bit of an extent, it's going to be really chaotic. I think the drivers are going to play it maybe a little safer than they did in this duel, knowing that there's a longer race at stake, but it's for the points. So, I think it's going to matter a lot more in the grand scheme of things when you're talking about a last stage of the affair and drivers are going to get a little more intense in the way they make the moves, and we may end up falling in the same kind of rhythm we ended up in the last few restarts of Duel 1 and Duel 2. So it should be in for an interesting show. I still think the drivers are taking out their notepads and learning a little bit, including myself, on what this truck is like to drive in a race condition. So all got to find out next Monday, and that should be exciting.
It's going to be fun to see the entire field out on the racetrack together. The 40 trucks that have made up tonight's dual qualifying efforts to be out there on the racetrack. We'll get you those full fields in a later time. We do have some rough ideas regarding who's actually in or not. A lot of that does depend on who's unable to make the big show, but we do have most of our field decided, and we'll give you the starting lineup when we get to Daytona, or we come back to Daytona next time out. But from all of us here on the KBueno Racing Network and the KBueno Racing Network Truck Series, from all the admin teams and race control that helps makes this happen, from Alexander Schumacher, Justin Rott, Keelan Belsha, Eli Comerford, JJ Hill, to our Charlie Beyer, our colleague in the booth in Nate Polite and Kenneth Bueno, I am Francisco Bacalao saying so long and have a good night. Congratulations to our Tool Duel winners on locking out the front row for next week's race. Be sure to join us at 8:30 p.m. Eastern or for live coverage of the main Daytona event to kick off Season 3 of the KBueno Racing Truck Series. You don't want to miss it.